Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the call meeting of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, March 5th, 2026, 3 p.m. I'd like to invite Danny Lance from True Life Church to come forward and provide our invocation and lead us in our pledge. If everyone will stand, if able.
Heavenly Father, we are certainly grateful for so many things in our life, and we are grateful for our city and for the wonderful place it is to call home. We're also reminded this time of year as we see new blooms that seasons change, and this is one of those moments. So we pray, Lord, for wisdom, guidance, direction for these men and women that will make what's a very important decision for our city. We also, Lord, pray protection over our first responders here, as well as for the men and women that are in harm's way throughout the Middle East right now. We just ask, Lord, your protection over each and every one of them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Roll call, Ms. Dietrich.
Mayor Williams,
Here.
Vice Mayor Tyler,
Here.
Councilmember Cagle,
Here.
Councilmember Ezell,
Here.
Councilmember Witt,
Here.
Interim City Manager Williams,
Here.
Attorney Ritchie.
All right. The item for the agenda today is interview of city manager candidates. So I'd like to explain what we did back in January, the interview process. We'll have one candidate come in. They'll come up to the dais over here to my right, your left, and we each will ask the candidate to introduce herself. I will ask that, and then we'll rotate through the council members asking questions to the candidate. We'll go through approximately 5 cycles of questions to from each council member. The rule of thumb is we will interview the candidates and simply ask them the questions and make sure those questions are asked to each candidate the same. Everyone good with that, council? All right. There will be a section for communications from citizens, so that'll be after the interviews end. So if someone wants to come up, we're open to citizens' comments. So with that being said, we will then begin that process by the interviewing of the candidate Glenn Adams. We'll go ahead and let the audience know that we've got 4. This could take 45 minutes to an hour, depending on each. So we may break in between the second and the third for a quick break. It won't be long because we all don't want to be here as long as possible, but we will make a slight break in between those for them and you and our council briefly, maybe 15 minutes or 10 or 15. Welcome, sir. Mr. Adams, thank you for your interest in East Ridge. We appreciate you being here tonight and interviewing and answering our questions. So I believe I mentioned this on our one-on-ones, but I'll give you a moment to tell us about yourself. Then we'll begin. I'll start, and then we'll begin going around with questions from each council member, maybe 4, 5, 6 rounds, depending on the number of questions we have. So that is any questions there? Awesome. We'll go ahead and kick it off and tell us a little about yourself.
Well, first off, I want to thank you all, and I'm humbled to be able to be here, and hopefully I do well on this one, but I want to say thank you, Mayor, Council, Directors, citizens. My name's Glenn Adams, and frankly, I want to be your next city manager. I'm a unique person. I don't come with decades of city manager experience. I changed direction in my military career. to give myself the opportunity to pick up the skills of a city manager. Ever since I saw a city administrator in 1994 help a city recover from the effects of a hurricane, and I had an alderman as a neighbor talking to me about all the things that go on in the city, and it was inspiring. So during that process, I took things that were in the military form of being able to develop myself as a city manager. Civil affairs, psychological operations teach me how to run a government, post-military operations, and talk to communities and try to set conditions for reestablishing a government. Then I did a lot of public works stuff. I did a lot of construction stuff. And, you know, I culminated my last 2 assignments with running the engineer regiment for the U.S. Army, which had a little over 40,000 engineers in it. And my last job in the Army was supporting 85 installations with over $1 billion in construction funded by the Japanese government. And those skills of diplomacy and the skills of actually keeping contracts on tune and understanding what the 85 installations need to support its citizenry, which is servicemen and their families. So I have a breadth of experience that's rare to find in a city manager. Yes, I've had 2 years, almost 2 years as a city manager at Santa Fe, and I did a lot of interim work. And what I can tell you is it's not an easy job to be up here as you guys, and it's not an easy job being a city manager. It's a calling. It's a spirit of desire to support the citizens. And one of the things that I can say is having a bunch of soldiers under me is take care of your soldiers. And in this role, I'm taking care of the citizens just like I take care of the soldiers. So that's a little bit about me. The complexity of my background is difficult to put in words to explain, but that's a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So we'll start now with a round of questions. I'll go first, and then I'll probably just go Vice Mayor Tyler, then we'll do Councilmember Cagle, Councilmember Witt, and Councilmember Ezell. So my first question is going to be, one of the first things that the city manager is going to be ended up, major task is going to be our budget as they come in. So I'm going to ask you to describe your experience developing, managing, and presenting a municipal budget, and what is the largest budget you've overseen, and what are the key financial challenges or priorities involved?
Well, sir, the largest budget I've managed is $128.5 million. So I did that last year, and it was approved in October with the City of Homewood. It was the first time they did the process the way that I did it. They had 12 elected officials. I pulled 5 of them in to be sort of like the Napoleon's corporal. They would represent the entirety of the council. And I brought the directors in and briefed the Council of Representatives in a workshop environment where any question can be asked, and then they can give guidance. And from doing that, you create a beautiful menu that you take the city services as they are right now, and you add the cost of living increase to running the city the same way the next year. You create a menu that's priority driven, and then on top of that, you take the expected revenues, the levers that you can turn up or down, left or right, to be able to change the revenues, small increments that we can as a municipality. And it's really easy for the council to be able to look at, okay, this is the standards we're currently holding. Do we want to change those standards? And if so, what on the menu do we move up or down so we can support the citizens the same or better? And then on top of it, you can change the revenue amounts just very slightly in a municipality, and you may be able to bump 1 or 2 things back onto the list of the menu. And it gets rid of the emotion, it gets rid of the excitement, it's straightforward. We can all talk about the issue, not talk about other things that can lead in different directions. So that's the way I do it. I believe in it. In this situation, that council would be the council of a whole. You do it in a workshop so everybody can ask questions, and then they're not surprised and they fully understand why those items are on the budget when it's finally presented to you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Tyler.
Mr. Adams, how do you view the role of the council when it comes to dealing with the administration?
Well, really, you all are setting policy and vision and guidance and direction. You're literally hiring me to run the city for you. So my hope would be is you'd be communicating with me in a manner in which that I can have goals to aspire to achieve, but also listening to myself and the directors and the feedback that we're giving you and the advice we're giving you, so that when you make those decisions, it's a good one for the community to go on. Because if we don't give you the information you need to make a decision, then we're failing you and we're failing the community. So we have to be open, we have to be able to share those things. So it's really a communication, it's relationship driven. I have to get to know each one of you, I have to know what your goals are, and then I have to be able to articulate that in such a fashion that as a council, I can get a unified direction and be able to then discuss things with the directors so we can achieve those directions and the goals that you guys set forward for me. So it's really more of you have me for a reason. It's the reason is to manage all of the day in, day out things, and you can stay at a higher level and see what needs to happen and give us the direction to go.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Councilmember Cagle.
Nice seeing you again. Yesterday, this is the question I told you yesterday that I saved for today. Have you ever been given the option to resign or be terminated? This is the second part of the question. Are there anything in your background that might come back to embarrass the city if we decide to give you the job as city manager?
So it's a two-part there, and I will be happy to start the first one. My first job, I was hired as a change agent, city manager of Santa Fe, Texas. I told the council when they hired me, you're hiring me as a change agent. That means I don't have a long life here. I'm not going to be here. Well, they said, we'll be right behind you, don't worry. For those who don't understand, Santa Fe, Texas basically did nothing for its citizens for 42 years. This council came in, said, we're going to be a city, we're going to provide services. And they asked me to start making that happen. I did very well. At the end of my first year, I got a substantial pay raise. Regrettably, the council switched over. I lost one council member to health reasons. You can't argue with those. And I lost another council member because got hired, got a substantial pay raise, and he had to leave the city. And regrettably, many of you know Santa Fe, Texas, May 18, 2018, there was a school shooting. 8 kids and 2 teachers were killed. The mayor-elect went down to the site, and in a small town, they didn't realize that you don't let the mayor into a crime scene. He knew all 8 kids, had coached some of them multiple times, so he had PTSD. And regrettably, he got recalled because of actions of what he did on 4th of July. And that meant I had lost my majority, and new council that came in basically wanted to stop change, no longer wanted any change. I was the face of change, and finally I had to have a discussion with them that I can't fix the fact that change is occurring. That's once you start it, it doesn't stop. You need to get rid of me to be able to start doing what you want to do. So I brought that on myself, in all honesty. Then the next time I was Percival, Virginia. It was an interim job with the intent to be a permanent. Week 2.5, I was being told to do things that I don't consider ethical, that I do not consider taking care of the interests of the citizens, and I believe some of them are going to lead to illegal activity, and so I submitted my 2-week notice. Things got painted differently. The truth is in my weekly updates that I gave them, and if you want, you could probably get them because every news agency asks for them. But I will tell you the principles in which I live by and have led for my entire life, I'm not willing to give up. A job isn't worth me losing my integrity, and I will do the right thing. So I submitted my resignation. Now, good news out of that is the Berkeley group saw that and said, you know, that's the kind of character we need, and they immediately contracted with me to be the city manager of Martinsville for an interim role, and I helped Martinsville while I was there.
Yeah,
But
second.
that could be both very embarrassing and it can be.
Okay.
Sorry. Did I answer all of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Councilmember Witt.
First, I want to thank you for your service. I appreciate that.
thank you.
In your opinion, what does successful communication between the city manager and the council look like?
So again, I mentioned it's a relationship, and why it has to be a relationship is you have to have trust in me, and I have to earn that trust in you. And without that trust, I'm going to fail the citizens, and I'm going to fail you. So I have to build a relationship with you, and so the only way to do that is start meeting with you on a regular basis. The second part is communicating on a weekly basis with you the things that I see that are important that you should know, because none of you deserve to have a surprise where a citizen comes up and asks you a question that's going on in the community and you don't have the answer. You don't deserve to have that, and I shouldn't leave you in a situation where you're like that. So I need to be providing an update to you on a regular basis so that you have an understanding of things that might be upcoming, that could be on an agenda in the future. It's just to give you insights. And I love to give this example. You don't just come home one day with a brand new vehicle and expect your spouse to be happy about it. You need to start explaining to your spouse the things that are going wrong with your car before you go out and purchase one, so everybody's in agreement. And that's really the same thing. I have to make sure you're informed well enough to understand the things that I'm going to be recommending, so it doesn't feel like it's coming out of the blue.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ezell.
How you doing today, buddy?
Outstanding.
Good. If you're elected, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing you here in East Ridge?
Well, I'm not up for election.
If you're appointed.
If I'm appointed.
Yeah.
There's several challenges that I would tell you. It's a combination first of economic development, but it's really keeping your tourism district alive. And that has been such well, it's part of the exciting reason why I applied. I can't believe the amazing things you've been able to do, from Camp Jordan Park to all of the new businesses, restaurants, the way it's absolutely changed the direction of funding for the city. And $800 million coming into the state, and you guys are able to set conditions that you're knocking off things for quality of life, etc. The second part of that is really capital improvements / stormwater / quality of life. And why they're all together is capital improvements is where you can address all three of that in one thing, because you have your life cycle replacement in capital improvements, but you stormwater is such an important part. There's nothing more frustrating than May 15th, 2020, 6:30 at night, Santa Fe, Texas. It's raining, and it's raining harder than I've ever seen in my life. And it just kept raining. About an hour into it, is my wife here? I stole her Jeep and drove out into the city to look at the flooding, because she's got 37-inch tires. Pretty much wade through anything. And I saw community flooding, and I saw it flooding in the worst ways that I had ever imagined. I got to the council and had a discussion and asked for permission to work with sister cities, and so I got two cities, the drainage district and the county engineer, all to meet with me in my street department. And we discussed all the areas that needed to be fixed to solve our problem. And we fixed flooding by going to other cities and fixing their drainage pattern all the way up to our city, and then fixing our city. And we did that really within everybody's current budget. So we were able to knock that out within a year. And so when I talk stormwater, I'm really talking the impacts of, could you imagine if every time it rained for your entire existence, 42 years as a city, people were afraid it was going to flood? And they no longer had that. And so that's a small thing, but when you talk of service to a community, that's public works, that's engineers, that's looking at a big picture and working with other cities and counties, et cetera, to resolve a problem that is critical. And that's only done through capital improvement, because you can't do that just in a general fund concept. And the final thing is quality of life. So communities need things within their community to make their community feel like that. And the things you're already are doing are setting conditions that people feel that this is my community, this is my city, this is a place I want to be. And I think that has to be continued. You have to put the efforts in putting in the things for quality of life in everything around here, because that's what sets you apart from anybody else. So those are the things that I think are important. There's a lot of things that need to be done in association with it, where you have communications with state and federal government agencies to be able to set conditions for even the continuing the district. But in general, you have to have working relationships, because quite honestly, in life, there's quid pro quo in a community. You need help a sister city, they'll help you when you need help. And that's the truth.
Thank you.
All right, my next question is, how would you describe your leadership and problem-solving style? And provide examples of how you adapt your approach to different personalities, challenging circumstances, and administrative challenges.
I think you could add a few more parts. So I believe in having a positive work environment. I believe in empowering people. You will hear me often say things like set conditions, and when it comes to people, you set conditions for your success. When we talk about what it takes to do that, the implementation, there's so many parts to it. But the beginning step is both a good and bad thing. It's trust. You have to give trust to earn trust. And so I give everybody trust immediately. And as I do my 90-day integration, I have them take me out and show me every part of their directorate, introduce me to every single person. It gives them an opportunity to say something if they see something that they need to share. I have open door policies that people can come talk to me. I do what I call walkabout. Yes, I stole that from Crocodile Dundee. But I get out there and I look at things. I will be out in the community. I'll be out in the directorate's areas. I'll call and find out where our people are doing work and go catch them, so I hopefully catch them doing things right. You counsel in private and praise in public. And I know that just sounds like a cliche thing, but it's very important. But I will start counseling every one of my directors around week 3 and should finish around week 8. In that counseling, I go over everything that's in their job description and my expectations in it. I give it to them in advance of the counseling, say, what else are you doing? So they come back with all of their things, and then when we sit down and discuss things, we're racking and stacking the priorities of stuff, because often what we have is people are accepting risk on their own without it being shared up. So a lot of us don't know what's going on. They're not sleeping at night because they have the full burden without having a prioritization and understanding that some things are less important and can be left up back burner. Then the next thing is I talk to them about their personal and professional goals 20 years out. It sounds just kind of trite and stuff, but it's very important, because there's a point somewhere out there that they may need to be leaving the city to achieve their goals, and if you don't know it, you can't help them achieve it. But when you do know it, you're also able to set the conditions that there's somebody grown to replace, or you know the timeline that you have to recruit. One of the things that I will tell you is I'm adamant about taking care of people's futures. I try to set the conditions for the success of their desires, even if it means they leave here. But one of the things that I've discovered is while they're still here, they get huge loyalty and they're going to work hard for you. That means they'll start protecting your interest in rooms that you're not in. And that's really important for our community. And the final thing is I'll ask them, how am I failing you? And a lot of people go, well, wow, that's pretty straightforward, but it has to be blunt like that, because at time, if you want to have that trust, they have to be able to share where you really are making a mistake. I can't grow if I don't know, and I can't fix it if I don't know. And I'm giving them permission to give me that feedback, and I will not hold it against them for doing it. I will hold myself accountable for it, and that continues to build trust. And as they learn how to do that by the counseling, by the way I'm mentoring them on that, they start doing it all the way down. And pretty soon you start having an environment where people feel like we're taking care of each other's interests, and they start supporting each other well. And I'm not saying that this community doesn't. What I'm saying is everywhere I've been, it has improved the morale, and it has improved the work environment. And we do accomplish more because they're not afraid to innovate, because they have permission to fail forward. It means you can make a mistake. We'll dust you off, we'll have a discussion, and then send you back on your way. Because honest mistakes, I don't know anybody here who's never made a mistake. I probably made 3 or 4 of them today already. But the key is if you're doing it for the right reason, then it should be endorsed and you move them out. And all of this sounds so easy, but in practical application, when you're sitting down one-on-one with somebody and say, I'm really disappointed in this, and here's the reasons why, that's where you earn your money. And I'll be honest, it's not easy being in a council city manager relationship, because sometimes you're doing that to me and sometimes I'm doing that to you, but it's in private, one-on-one, in a situation where we could both grow. And I'm not perfect. I'm not a lifelong municipal leader, but I'm a really good leader. I think that answered most. I'm not sure if I got it all.
Yeah, yes, sir, you did. Thank you. That's Mayor Tyler.
I got an easy question for you. Tell us how you would handle a project that's going over budget.
Projects sometimes are out of your control about going over budgets, but I believe in having regular meetings with my contracts in which we go over things so everything is clear and concise and I understand what's going on. I will go out there frequently and look at it. If there's a directorate that it's directly supporting, I will have them with me as we're doing it, because it's their area. And we'll be looking at it on a regular basis, so it won't be a surprise. If we fail at developing a scope of work that isn't complete enough, a contractor, even the best of contractors, they will find a way to get a little bit of extra money for every change order. And so you have to be smart. And having a good, accurate scope of work and sitting down and understanding the criteria when you start picking the actual contractor you go with is really important. And fortunately, when I say I built 3 cities and 2 airfields, that doesn't mean I was physically out there doing it. I had contractors doing it. And I learned how to be very good at spotting what's going wrong and what's right. But I got even better at going through the scope of work and better at making sure I had the right criteria to rack and stack the contractors so we had the best contractor we could get. I'm afraid sometimes when you're out there and you have changes and you have things that are unforeseen, you will have cost overruns. But if you are working it tight, you know what you're doing and paying attention to it, those cost overruns should be minimalized, not maximized.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Counselor, up through.
You through?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilmember Wood.
Describe actions that you have initiated and taken that were unpopular with the segments of the city. What did you do to come to an understanding with these individuals or groups regarding these actions?
So I think the most contentious thing that I've ever had happen was in Santa Fe, Texas. I told you about the school shooting. I simply said I wanted to have a 4th of July event. And it was really planned to be outdoors for the city, a parade starting it off. Everything is you picture a small town 4th of July event to occur. The time Vice Mayor said, I want fireworks. Now, I had never said I wanted fireworks, but he said it, and so I said it. And the community blew up because I'm the new guy and I don't know what I'm talking about, and they're all suffering from PTSD, which they were. You lose 10 people 2.5 years before to a school shooting event. The kids were afraid of large blasts. I did apologize to the community, but what I did is I explained it in straightforward terms. The United States Army believes in creating an environment when you address PTSD that the triggering events are seen in a positive light. And by having fireworks and you're pumping in music and you're in your car, because this is during the pandemic time frame, watching this with your family and friends, this becomes a positive event where the trigger occurs, and you now are working against the thing that is the trigger by creating a positive environment for that same thing. And I apologize that I didn't explain that in advance, and it was well accepted. But I will tell you, up to that point, I was afraid I'd literally walk outside and find myself hanging from a tree. And it was a bad backlash, and it was unintentional, but it was never my intent to have the fireworks. But once it was said, it was mine, and I owned it and I worked it. And the truth of the matter is that is how you address PTSD, to lessen the trigger by creating positive events around it. So that's the exact scenario for a contentious event that occurred. They didn't end up doing the fireworks because it was a huge storm that evening, but during the day they had the event.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ezell.
Okay, how about, describe a particular difficult personnel or discipline situation you had to address as a supervisor?
Well, sir, I was part of the thing that I gave you an example on the other day, so I can't release the events on that specific one. But I will tell you that in every case that I've had somebody that I mentioned before that I do counseling and I hold people accountable and I empower everybody to do things. There's some people, and it's normally 5%, that are not really capable of having that empowerment, and they like to have the very strict, straightforward, these are the things I expect of you, instead of saying you're running your own company and you're capable of doing this, here's the resources you need to be successful. And in those cases, I sit down and counsel them. I very specific on the events they did that I'm not happy with. I give them recommendations of ways to get around it. We discuss those, and then we send them on the way. It is very rare cases that, like in Santa Fe, Texas, where I had a community development director that absolutely refused to make the changes in enforcing the building inspection standards and changing the format in which you submit building permits and get them back in a timely manner. And so I had honest conversations that there's going to be a time where the state is going to change the law and make it a 30-day process, and we'll never get there with your process. And she kept on refusing to do that, and that refusal afforded me the opportunity to offer her chance to move on. We hired a new community development director, did amazing stuff, and got us to a less than 30-day building permit standard just about a month before Texas set that as a standard. And just so everybody here knows, in Texas, if you submit a building permit and you don't get a reply within 30 days, it is considered approved. So that's the standard we had to beat, and we got to it. And regrettably, it wasn't with the person, but I gave them every opportunity they had, and I had to move her on.
All right, sir, my next question is, what does excellent customer service in local government look like to you? What systems or metrics do you use to evaluate whether those services are meeting the needs and expectations of our residents?
So the whole reason why we're here as employees of a city and a member of the staff of the city is to take care of the residents of the city that we're in. And a lot of the times we get caught up in the requirements of, I'm supposed to mow this lawn, I'm supposed to fix this area, I'm supposed to do this. And part of the thing that I talk to, and when I talk about service, is empowering people at the lowest levels possible to make an impact in the community. And that means if you are not able to complete mowing a certain area because you stopped and helped somebody who had a flat tire, that's okay. If you see somebody who is in need and you stop to help them, that's okay. And all the way up the chain of command, we have to endorse and support the fact that sometimes we're allowing our team to make decisions not to finish a project on time because they're helping out. But that doesn't mean it's carte blanche. You should be able to communicate nowadays within reason that, hey, I'm helping this person right here because of this, and I should be able to be back on site doing work at this time. It really is just about what is customer service and what does it really mean to serve. And if we're taking the time to help our citizens, I don't think our citizens are going to be upset that we didn't meet our time mowing the lawn when we actually helped somebody out who was in a point of need. I can't guarantee that speed, but during the process of doing this, and when you do the counseling and you have the discussions all the way down, it finally gets down to the lowest levels. And at the lowest levels, they're empowered to make those decisions. Just like I said, failing forward, as long as they're making mistakes with the right intent, I don't think anybody's going to criticize somebody for helping out a citizen. And I know I won't. And it's, you know, you're probably not going to do that while you're doing a bank run with a bunch of money in the bank. But besides that, you can communicate with somebody who could possibly help. So.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Tyler?
Yes, can you describe your experience with economic development and what role have you played in it in your previous roles?
So economic development, and a lot of people don't understand how critical it is. Every sales tax dollar we get improves our ability to protect the citizens from property tax increases. So it's really important that a city look at itself as enabling businesses' successes. And one of the things my first council told me to do is regularly go out and hit different businesses and talk to them. And as I did this, I decided I need to be involved with the chamber, and the council said, yes, you can be involved with the chamber. And I started going to all of their events and going to ribbon cuttings, and suddenly I had businesses willing to talk to me about the frustrations they had with setting up shop. And so as they would share these frustrations, I would either go to my staff and go, what can we do about this, this, and this? Is there process improvements? Is there different software? What is it we can do to make it easier for a business to be successful? Sometimes the ordinances that are in play are pretty strict. If you think of ability of an individual to come in, develop a piece of property to the standards in which they have to, maybe some of those standards can be waived to a 12 to 18 month standard, such as putting a new pavement down, and allow them a 18-month period to get that in, because maybe their business isn't going to take off and they won't be successful, but maybe it will, and then they can afford to pave it sooner because they know that's a requirement. And then you work with the councils to have those discussions and allow that ordinance to have a variation in where we can allow, if they go through the process, that you can have a time delay to meet some of those things after the business is running. When I'm doing this, I was going around quite frequently, and then you find out that you have a pandemic, and then communicating with the businesses the real time and setting up conditions that they know what safety standards to put in place, because I'm on the state site hearing the new updates and I provide it to them in real time. They then are able to put all the protections into the businesses. And what that meant is our businesses didn't close. Our businesses, while other cities had businesses shutting down, our businesses stayed open. And we grew sales tax revenue while everybody else was losing sales tax revenue. And when you do that, you're communicating not only with the businesses, you're communicating with the citizens. I had 46,000 followers on Facebook as I did a daily update. Some of the criticism I got was I was on the same time as the president, and they wanted to watch me, not the president, because I would answer questions as they were put online. And what I'm telling you is you have to be available to receive communication. You have to take the communication that's provided, do assessments on that communication, and find out what you can do to properly impact on it. So that's really what you have to do. For us here, I think it's important that I, as a city manager, set conditions that the council representatives or myself go out and meet with state elected officials to help set conditions that we keep that tourism district for another 5 years, because it is making a huge difference in our community. But it's more than that. You got to build relationships. Every time you see somebody, you ask for something, they're not going to want to talk to you. So you got to go meet them on a regular basis. So when you do ask for something, it's not every time I see you, you're asking for something. So it's really about developing relationships so that when you do ask for something, you can be successful. And that's all part of the economic development. But then you got to know what the citizens want. If you don't know what the citizens want, you might put something in that they don't want. And you don't need to give incentives to businesses that this community doesn't want. You need to give incentives to businesses that this community wants. And so that's another part of the discussion. But really, I have to work with you all because you represent all the citizens, and I will get that guidance, and I'll do the best I can to meet those goals that you set for me. I think that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Councilmember Witt?
What would you hope to accomplish in your first year if chosen as the city manager?
So I've been criticized at not being happy with the speed of government. So what I will tell you is my first goal is building the trust with the mayor and the council. Without that trust, I'm not going to be successful at supporting the citizens, and I'm sure I'm not going to support the staff the way they need to be supported, because things that are needed are difficult to be asked, and I am the one in the position that has to ask it. And if you don't trust the reasons why I'm asking for it, I'm not going to be able to support them. So that it's important I build that trust. It's imperative that the staff trust me. So I'll be giving them trust first. And I have to earn that trust, and I recognize that. I have to go out there and do things and make sure that I look after their interests, much like I've already described. But I have to hold myself accountable to them and their needs also. So I have to do that. Then I have to meet the citizens. And the citizens' trust it's so important. If they don't feel that people are here responding to their issues, they're never going to support any kind of requirements that we may bring up that we need their help on. Even communicating in a way that they can participate in events and want to participate in events, they will feel we're not hearing them, so they won't want to. So I have to go out there, be willing to meet them wherever their issues are, discuss it, and if they give me enough time, bring some of the directors who might be able to assist in coming up with solutions. And then if I have the ability to fix it then. And if not, and it takes resources, I need to be able to create a good packet in which I can brief the council so you all understand what the issue is and where we need to program the money or the resource to be able to resolve that issue. And sometimes there's second and third order effects that we need to staff before we present to the council. But the final thing is, it's a two-part. I have to follow up with them after it's done and say, did it fix it? And more importantly, the second part, which is, did it create unforeseen consequences? Sometimes when we do something, there's a second and third order effect that we didn't anticipate. And they're going to go, oh yeah, well you caused this to happen. And then you have to fix that too.
Councilman Rizzo?
No more questions.
All right. My next question is, describe a time when you experienced a service failure or major operational change. What steps did you take to resolve that issue, and what changes were implemented to prevent that from happening again?
I'm pausing here because I'm honestly having trouble finding a time that we had that incident occur. I think the closest thing I have to it is flooding. It really comes down to this, we had two pieces of equipment that would clean out storm drainage systems, and they would run almost year round trying to keep everything going. And when you feel that first rain and you see people flood, that's a failure at an epic level. And I took it personally because I've had some house flood before, and it's a scary feeling, and it's a helpless feeling. When you do that, you kind of feel like you failed the community there, even though it's a short period of time, but I take the ownership of it. And so, having the wherewithal to go everywhere and solve problems, talk to the communities, set the conditions that I have the authority from my council to go do work in other cities to solve their problems so it solves our problem. Fixing all of ours wasn't working. And doing the same thing over and over again with the intent that it'll fix what it's never fixed before is like banging your head against the wall. It gets frustrating sometimes. So we went way out of our way and started looking at how do we get the long-term solution in. And we even made sure that in our capital improvement program, the areas we knew that would get worse first, we programmed larger culverts. We programmed with the drainage district and the other cities to go back and do maintenance on it. Having a resource that you don't maintain, a lot of the times it's like throwing money away. So, whether it's roads or stormwater projects or anything else, if you don't sustain it, maintain it, and take care of it, you're really going to hurt yourself in the long run. And I know that didn't answer it as specific, but that's as close as it gets to not succeeding in something and having to readdress what's going on with it.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor Tyler?
Mr. Adams, how do you balance providing department leaders with the autonomy to complete tasks in their own way while maintaining necessary oversight?
Well, part of that walkabout thing is going out and seeing things. I do try to get out, and workload permits. I learned to make it a scheduled thing before anybody else can get on my calendar. But you have to get out and look at things. And if you don't see what's going on, you're not really informed. And so having those conversations with people one-on-one and making sure they are empowered and resourced to be successful is so important. A good example is in Homewood. They put 3 miles of trail in and had grass on both sides. There was drainage issues on both sides. And the expectation was they were going to sustain that without any additional people, without any additional equipment. And, that's where I talk levels of service. If I say we're going to mow a lawn every week and we just keep adding more right away, more things for them to do, at some point I need to come back to you and say, with the people I've got, it's got to be every other week now. And if that's not able to meet a standard, you come back to me and then say, what do we need to meet this standard? And we provide that resource. So really it's talking a two-way communication between the directorate and myself to make sure the standards are understood, the goals are understood, the resources are made available, and anything that's lacking, I need to be able to communicate back up to the councils to see if I could get additional resources for them to be successful. But it's really in that communication. And then I told you before, we sit down and talk in our counseling, and I prioritize things. So maybe something needs to change a priority so that the resources are available within their own organization.
Thank you again, Mr. Adams.
Councilmember Witt?
This is going to be my last question. When preparing a budget, how do you prioritize which services and programs will be funded?
I partially answered that.
Okay.
When I talked about the budget process, that workshop is really where we're going to spend a lot of time clarifying what that standard of service that we currently are providing and the different things that we've asked of that organization as they brief it. So as the director says, here's the things that I know I have to add on to it. That's where you all can say, no, that's not the way we said it. So that doesn't have to happen that way. Sometimes we make assumptions from conversations that are had and not necessarily a requirement. And so that can be clarified in that workshop. But the prioritization comes back down to is when we create that rack and stack menu item of everything that all the directors accumulate for requirements, you all are sitting there looking at it and going, okay, this is the lever that I could pull so we can afford it or we can't afford it, and we maybe look at it at a mid-year review. But really, it's racking and stacking the priority, and if we have to come back to you all and say, okay, things look like they're changing, we might need to change priorities. Maybe we do a review of where we stand now with the revenue that we have, we might be able to afford this. So it's really having those discussions and setting the environment that we can.
All right. My next question: if we contacted your last council or mayor, what would they say is your greatest strength as a city manager and your biggest area of growth?
I think the team that I was able to create, because the mayor on his departure said the city's work environment was the best he had seen in 18 years. So I think that's the greatest strength of being able to create a positive work environment where people are actually happy to come to work and work. I won't say I'm a narcissist, but I think everybody who's in this role is going to have a little bit of those tendencies. So I fear of saying that I have a huge kind of thing. I will tell you that one of my greatest problems in life has always been the speed of government. I'm used to dealing with soldiers, and when you're talking to soldiers, if you delay something in taking care of them, you can cause somebody to die. So when I talk about my frustration, sometimes I get frustrated in the speed of things. Not necessarily within our organization. It might be an organization I need support from. And everybody is easy at kicking departments of transportation, so I'll use them as an example because they're always used as an example. They have processes and procedures. There's reasons why they have those there. But those processes and procedures sometimes are frustrating to me, and I will tell you, it's not a good environment for me when I'm frustrated. But I don't believe I take the frustration out on my staff, and I don't think I've negatively impacted my community. I will say that I was successful in convincing the mayor and the president of the council to accept the Divergent Diamond, which was the last 80-20 grant that was supported in Alabama. And that was probably $20 million worth of total value that we got out of it. But we had a huge bill ourselves. But, I think my weakness is really sometimes I get frustrated with the speed of government.
Thank you, sir. That's my time.
Final question for me, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Adams, how would you handle it if an individual councilman or council member asked you to perform a task that was not approved by the entire council?
Normally have those conversations one-on-one. I really try to explain to them pretty crystal clear what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. And if they have an idea or something they want specifically done, I will explain to them what I'm able to do. And then say if you want to bring it up on an agenda item, then I will have that conversation with the mayor to put it on the agenda item to get the council's final approval for doing something like that. But when we create the budget, we create a budget for workload, and that workload is all of the services we provide. So it's really my flexibility to come up with the concepts and any extra time my directors might have to help develop that concept. But we don't have necessarily extra resources laying around to fix things that is not directed by the council because I have to reprioritize work to do that. That means something's going to fall off the list.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
And that last one was mine as well. So, any final comments, statements?
Is this the last time I get to speak, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think my final sales pitch is this. It's very rare that my background is in a city manager environment. And I know that. And I know there's a bit of a risk that you have to accept to be able to do it. But I think I've done a very good job of creating the skill sets you need in an environment that may not have been a municipality, but in an environment that was just as demanding, if not more so, where the stresses were pretty high and the consequences were significant, that if I failed, I felt that stress. And when I look you in the eyes right now, I can tell you that I will do everything I can to meet or exceed your goals and provide the citizens of this amazing community the best services our staff can possibly provide. They've done amazing things. I've been so amazed at the stuff that they've been able to accomplish. They're lean. They're like the military organizations that I've had. You know, they are as lean as they can, and they still find a way to meet or exceed the expectations how it is. But the way I lead, we find efficiencies. Efficiencies other people don't normally find. And it's not that I'm an amazing person, it's that they are that amazing, and I give them the permission to be successful, innovate, and find new solutions to old problems. I'm humbled that I get this opportunity to be here, and I hope that I'm the one that is elected to this position.
Well, thank you, sir. Definitely appreciate your interest in East Ridge, your time that you've spent here, and absolutely thank you so much for your service to this country.
Thank you.
Thank you. You cold?
No, I just thought I heard you and Mike talking.
He's cold. I'm fine. You can bump it up a degree if you want to.
I think it was great.
Are you cold? Cold.
No, I think it was great.
Are you cold? Are you cold? I know she is. I'm not gonna ask her.
Is the audience covered?
We got 6 chipmunks. Donna is.
Oh, yeah, she gonna put her coat on.
Covered up.
Yeah, she gonna put her coat on.
From Mr. Corral, thank you for your interest in the city of East Ridge. We will, I'll ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll then go and start around questions questions to you from each of the council members, and we'll circle through that a few iterations, and then give you a final word if you'd like to say. So again, welcome. Thank you for your interest. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, well, excellent. Mayor, thank you. Members of the council, community members, colleagues. It is so good to be in Eastridge today. I'm excited for the opportunity and look forward to the discussion. I've enjoyed the hospitality and the conversation we've had so far. My name is Brian Coral. I've spent the last 15 years serving in two wonderful communities. Atoka, Tennessee, which is a great place to call home, and Riverside, Missouri, which is upstream from Ordinary. And I'm excited to be here today in the gateway to Tennessee. There's a lot of similarities I've kind of thought about Atoka and Riverside and Eastridge. They're neighboring larger regional hub cities. They neighbor Memphis and Kansas City. They provide a wide array of municipal services. They have dedicated and incredible staff teams. Growing, embracing the future, they're innovative, rooted in their history, and yet proud of where they are and where they're. That's exciting. And I would like the opportunity, I'm looking forward to bringing my experience, my passion for public service to serve here in Eastridge. I take a long-term view of my work. This position is building trust. It's building trust with the elected body. It's building trust, relationships with the staff. It's building trust and relationships with the community, and that takes time. And I look to invest that time and provide that and be a part of the community. That also builds capacity for the organization. On a personal level, just a little bit about me. I have a master's in public administration. I'm a member of the International City Managers Association, the Missouri City Management Association. I hold my Certified Municipal Finance Officer designation in the state of Tennessee. I'm married to my wife Laura for 20 years. I have a daughter Kaylin and son Josiah, 16 and 13. And last thing I'll say, Mayor, before starting with questions is I don't think it's ever been more important to have great people serving the public. At local government, as divided as things are on a national state level, it is so important to have great people locally taking care of our residents, delivering the services that they depend on day in and day out. And I'd be honored to have the opportunity to lead and guide this team. So I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, sir. I'll start. And as we make a decision on the future for our city manager, the first thing that we have to do is a budget. So I'll start out with that question in the very beginning. So describe your experience developing, managing, and presenting a municipal budget, and also what is your largest budget that you've overseen, and what is the key challenges and priorities that you involved in that design of the budget?
Okay, those are a couple questions. Largest budget I managed, Riverside has a budget this year of $56.8 million. So pretty comparable. A large budget, a significant capital portion there. Understanding that we are headed towards budget starts for fiscal year July 1. When I started in Atoka, kind of the same timeline. I started there in April, and budget needed to be done. And so we rolled up our sleeves and we got it done. I take a pretty hands-on and involved role in budget process. I think one of the key jobs of the city manager is to understand money in the organization, support the finance director to help make those decisions. So budget does not intimidate me. I love working on budget. I love understanding how the organization has prioritized its operation. I think the budget of a city is its annual policy document. That's what tells you what the priorities are. You look at where the money is spent. In municipal government, that tends to be public safety. 50+ cents of every dollar tends to go to police, fire, and communications because that's the number one priority there. So as far as developing budgets, I'm comfortable there. I think the timeline is reasonable. From a collaboration standpoint, I want to hear from all of the department directors and test what their needs are. I would anticipate, especially like the timeline on this particular process being more of a maintenance budget year. A new city manager coming into the organization, you're going to spend some time figuring out where the post-it notes are kept. So making wide-ranging decisions on new priorities is going to be something that is probably going to be more of a maintenance budget this year, looking to next year to have a better understanding of what the community needs and where the organization needs to go. But no discomfort in developing budget, managing budget. Historically, as we've looked at end results in Riverside and in Atoka, we've delivered budgets that are balanced. We deliver budgets that operate efficiently. Budgeting is balancing, I think, almost infinite needs and wants with finite resources, right? And so you have to be good stewards of the public dollars there. We've grown fund balance. It's allowed us to invest in infrastructure and other priorities for the organizations as well. So comfortable with budget and look forward actually to digging in and working with the team to get that done.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Vice,
Want me to talk a little? Okay, sorry about that.
Vice Mayor Tyler.
Mr. Coral, how do you view the role of the council in dealing with the administration?
I think it's a partnership. I look to have open communication with the elected officials. One of my practices for the last 15 years has been on every Friday I send out a weekly update. I know the manager here sends a monthly report that's got a lot more performance data and operational information about the various departments, but every week, every Friday afternoon, you can expect an update from me saying, here's some of the things that the organization's been working on this week. A month is a long time to get some of those information points out. So I like to communicate on a regular basis. One of my general approaches to supporting the council is making sure that there's no surprises. If there's something that's going to be on the local news, if there's something that's a priority, if there's a city facility or a staff member injured, you're going to hear about that from me directly. Typically phone call, text message, or a city email to get that information out, because I don't want you being approached out in public. Hey, what's going on with this issue that I saw on TV? And you're sitting there saying, I have no idea, I haven't heard anything about it. So as far as that goes, working on those things, I look at the elected body sets the vision and sets it's the what to do portion of the organization. We want to head west, if you will. And then you take that and send that to my office and to the staff team to execute that, and the how to do it then becomes staff. So those two things, when we focus on our roles and are successful in setting a great vision at the board level and then executing efficiently at the staff level, we celebrate success together, and we don't kind of start pulling in opposite directions.
Thank you, Mr. Coral.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Cagle.
Hello.
How you doing, sir?
All righty.
Good.
This is the one question I saved for today.
Okay. You promised it was coming.
That's right. Have you ever been given the option to resign or to be terminated? That's the first part.
I have never been given that option, no.
Have,
I have never been given the option to resign or be terminated.
all righty. Second part is, are there anything in your background that might come back to embarrass the city of East Ridge if we offer you the job of
No, sir.
city manager? Yes, sir. Thank you.
I am a Bills fan, if that's a problem. I said that when interviewing in Kansas City, too, so it's a thing. Full disclosure.
Get him out of here.
It's been fun.
Councilmember Witt.
Okay. In your opinion, what does a successful communication between the city manager and the council look like?
Well, as I said, I like to have that weekly update. I keep an open door policy, obviously with everybody, but I like to hear from folks. I don't spend a ton of time sitting at my desk. I like to be out communicating. I like to be out building relationships. So if you're a city council member who likes to come in on a Tuesday and sit down for an hour, then let's sit down for on Tuesday for an hour and have that conversation. If the vice mayor prefers a quick email and wants communication that way, and that best serves him, then that's what I'm going to deliver for him. It's going to be looking at how do I best serve you and make sure that you're getting the information that you want. I also look at, as I said, no surprises, and I think just being open and honest and transparent. If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know that thing. But I'll tell you I'm going to figure it out, or we'll find out, or we'll get more information. So I like to have those conversations. I like to check in on a regular basis, make sure that the organization is performing as you expect, because at the end of the day, everything that happens inside the organization, I'm responsible for. I take responsibility for everything. You will never hear me from any chair in this room say, this is the fault of somebody other than me. It's my responsibility for the organization delivering on what the community expects and needs.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Ezel.
What? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying
Oh,
Councilmember Ezel.
okay, sorry.
If appointed, what do you think? Sorry about that. If appointed, what do you think the biggest challenges are facing you here in East Ridge?
I think the first challenge is going to be getting to know, the key players in the community, to build those long-term relationships, to start building long-term relationships with the staff team, with each of you as elected officials, with community leaders, with business partners. I think those are, as you build those relationships and build that trust over time, that unlocks our capacity to do great things in the future. I know in talking about the border region, there's a sunset on that this year. I think that's going to be a priority to get that reestablished or extended another 5 years. I know the mayor and I had that conversation and talked to several of you folks about that as well. So that obviously is a priority to continue to unlock some of the great redevelopment that has happened within that district. And the amazing thing is, it's generated north of $800 million of economic activity, really at no cost to Eastridge residents, and then continues to spin off additional sales tax dollars. So, and I think obviously getting the budget done is going to be a priority, getting that up and running, and then figuring out kind of where the organization needs to head in the future. I am not a jump or a cannonball into the pool kind of administrator. I've been in organizations where a city manager comes in and thinks that their way is always the right way and they know how to do everything better than everybody else. And 6 months later, that person walked out the door. So that is not my style. I'm more of a wade into the pool unless you tell me there's a dumpster fire somewhere that needs immediate attention. I'm going to more acclimate myself to the organization and to the community and figure out where we go forward together.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My next question is, how would you describe your leadership and problem-solving style, and provide examples how you adapt your approach to different personalities, changing circumstances, and administrative changes?
Did you say leadership and problem-solving style?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. My leadership style is, I believe it starts with hiring the absolute best people we can every time we have a vacancy in the organization. We need to hire the best people. We need to train them. We need to equip them. And we need to empower them to deliver the outstanding service that our residents expect. I think from my interactions with the team, I've been incredibly impressed with the caliber of folks you have here in the organization, their passion for serving. I wonder when your parks director actually sleeps from talking to her about all the stuff she works on. So I think that's key. I think being outside and being in the organization, being present, is important. I mentioned earlier I have an open door policy, but I think it's also important that instead of folks coming through my door, that I come through theirs. I get a lot better relationship building and trust building when we're sitting around the fire table talking, or at the police department during shift change, or out at the park. So I do spend a lot of time outside in the organization. It also helps me keep an understanding of what it is we're doing and where we could improve. I think leadership is built on trust. It's built on relationships. In Riverside, we have 2 of our employee groups that are under collective bargaining agreements, and over the 8 years together, we built enough trust that they gave away, they gave away their binding arbitration rights under the Constitution because they trusted leadership, because they knew us, because if the only time I come through the door is when there's trouble, that doesn't build trust and confidence. I think everybody has some different needs. There are people who you want to come alongside and mentor if they want to grow in their jobs. I think that's important. I think we do leadership at all levels. Just because you're not a department head and don't have a title doesn't mean you don't have influence in the organization, that you don't have a capacity to grow the organization and to serve our residents. I like to push decision making down to the folks who are best suited to make those decisions. When I started in Atoka, every decision regarding utilities, including water shutoffs, was made by the town administrator. The utility clerks took that role on because they understood how best to serve our residents and our customers, and they're the ones who are dealing with the repercussions of that. So again, if we would hire great people, train them, equip them, are clear with our expectations, and then support them and grow them, I think that's how you unlock the capacity of the organization.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's Mayor Tyler.
Mr. Coral, could you tell us how you would handle a project that was over budget?
I'm not familiar with that. I'm kidding. That happens, unfortunately, more often than we'd like to have happen. There are realities to some of the work we do that when you start a project, you will encounter some unforeseen circumstances. I think key is, first off, designing the project to meet the expected budget parameters. When you start with, hey, we've got X dollars available, it doesn't help you if you design a project that comes in with the engineer's estimate at X times 2. if there are decisions that we want to make to improve the project, then we need to look and make sure that there's budget capacity to do that and make those things work. Change orders, I think, are an unnecessary evil. I know they happen, and nobody really likes them. But I also want to make sure that that we're paying only for the things that we need to deliver a project. We had bid one project when I was in Atoka, and we said it's a fixed price. There will be no change orders considered, and we overpaid for the project because on the front end, the contractor put in funding for anticipated costs that they didn't end up incurring. So I think keeping track of those items, making sure that through design you're keeping a keen eye on the budget availability for the project is important as well, and then doing your best to make sure that there aren't changes that could have been better foreseen on the front of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Coral.
Yes, sir.
You had the one and done. Yes, sir. All right. Councilmember Witt.
Describe actions that you have initiated and taken that were unpopular with segments of the city. What did you do to come to an understanding with these individuals and groups regarding these actions?
Sure. Probably the most unpopular project that I have worked on in my 14 years with the two cities was in Atoka. We partnered with the Tennessee Department of Transportation to build a roundabout. We had an intersection, Atoka-Idaville Road, which is a state highway, and Rosemark Road, which is a local road, that at drive time would stack 50 cars. It was a three-way stop. And we looked at it, and 90% of the cars were doing the motions you would expect, given that it was a drive time. We looked at putting in a street signal. The cost of that was even higher than a roundabout. And so we approached TDOT and said, we have this problem, and we think we have a solution for it. We said, we think that a roundabout works here. And TDOT said, we've wanted to build a roundabout somewhere in West Tennessee, but everybody fights us on it. They said, we've got money to build a roundabout in West Tennessee, but everybody fights us on it. We said, well, we won't fight you on it, let's build a roundabout. The number of traffic engineers that apparently exist on Facebook was fantastic. It took a lot of community conversation and education on it, talking about, hey, let's look at the safety statistics. Roundabouts are safer. Let's look at the energy efficiency. They are more efficient. Let's look at the cost of operating. They are cheaper. Here are the reasons why we're doing it. It was so controversial as it was being built, the local electric co-op put up a webcam so they could live stream the opening day of the Atoka Roundabout. Alderman Walker Adams was on the board, and he thought it was the dumbest idea we had ever had. He was not shy about saying that. Alderman Adams then made the motion to approve Atoka's second roundabout, which is now being built. So it worked. It built confidence. We got the mayor and the elected officials on board, had the conversation, and the community eventually came around. And have started identifying there are 3 more intersections in Atoka that will need these things over time. So it was the right call. We spent a lot of time educating and talking about what a roundabout is and what a roundabout isn't. We spent a lot of time watching National Lampoon's Vacation, where they get stuck in the roundabout in London and saying, this is not what we're building. Talking about the safety statistics, and it ended up being a great win, but it took a lot of talk, a lot of communication with the community, partnership with TDOT, which was great to get that done, but really a win for the community.
Here in East Ridge, when we have heavy rains, we have flooding problems. Can you describe your experience, if any, in stormwater runoff projects?
So Riverside sits on the Missouri River, so our priority is keeping water in the river, not coming back out of the river. And Riverside's protected by a 500-year U.S. Army Corps of Engineers flood levee, because in 1993 Riverside flooded. There's a picture of the mayor at the time in a rowboat rowing by the roofline of the grocery store. There was a lot of water. So the city was able to invest $100 million and build this levee system to protect the city from flooding. But that obviously then says, behind the floodgates, you've got to be prepared that if those floodgates are closed, you can detain the water. Atoka also had issues with the development happened there so quickly that we did not properly account for stormwater runoff. We built a lot of houses We took over a lot of farmland and put roofs and driveways, and those don't absorb stormwater nearly as well as farmland does. So we updated our requirements. We spent a lot of time evaluating which of the stormwater channels were cities' responsibility to maintain and clear out, where were we having flooding, where was problem areas that we could identify and correct. We took a more aggressive approach to clearing culverts under city streets and identifying those in minor rain events. Education campaign with the community of let's not push leaves into ditches, let's not push brush into ditches, let's not block up ditches. As we talked about, kind of this is not an immediate solution, but one of our long-term solutions was as we were updating subdivision regulations, we put in tree planting requirements. Because over time, as those trees grow and mature, they will help eliminate stormwater, absorb it, and reduce runoff as well. So we looked at kind of a holistic and how can we have a multifaceted approach to this. Stormwater is a huge challenge. Unfortunately, we've seen more and more. My mom was over in Western North Carolina, and they got deluged last year with the hurricane, and that amount of water is going to overtop things. But having a plan in place that can, to the best of our ability, mitigate routine rain events. You're going to have those major storms, those major floods that will overtop almost anything that you can design. But a routine rain event, we should be proactive in looking at how we get the water out of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Cordell, can you describe your experience with economic development and what role have you played in your current or previous positions?
Sure. When I was with the city of Sedalia, I was the point person on commercial development. It was a 60-acre commercial development on the west side of the city. It was anchored by a Menards, which is a big box home improvement store. They annexed into the city. I managed the annexation process. I managed the development agreement. There was going to be some wastewater system impact down the line, so the agreement required that when necessary they would make the improvements to the public infrastructure so that that cost wasn't borne by the ratepayers. That development has gone on to include a Kohl's. I believe there's a PetSmart in there. There's a Steak and Shake. So that's been a successful anchor on the west side of the city. And in Riverside, our focus was primarily initially on industrial development. The city, as I mentioned, we had spent that $100 million to protect a big portion of the community, and through the financing mechanism, we needed property taxes to be generated in that area. So industrial was how we chose to do it. It ended up creating just about $2 billion of private investment behind the levy system. And in 2019, we built the last of our industrial buildings. We built the last ones that we wanted to do. Riverside does not have a property tax, so sales tax and gaming tax are critical components to our budget. And so what we said was we need an area in what was left of our industrial development or in the Horizons Business Park. We need something that will draw people in. We need to put heads in beds and bring people into the community. So we've partnered with the Kansas City Current. They are doing development on the east side of Horizons. It's got 12 soccer pitches, 3 for the professional team, 9 for youth. They'll open a Hilton Garden in there this year. That was a project that was on my desk. I led that one. And then on the other side of the highway, Horizons Parkway, there's a we partnered with Live Nation. They are building a $130 million, 16,000-seat outdoor amphitheater. So you'll be able to put the population of Riverside in there 4 times. And they'll be hosting 30 to 40 concert events a year, generating about 600,000 unique visits each year there. During my time in Riverside, we oversaw 20 different commercial and industrial projects, representing just about $200 million in private investment in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Cordell.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and ask mine. What does excellent customer service in local government look like to you, and what systems and metrics do you use to evaluate those services, that they're meeting the needs and expectations of the residents?
I think excellent service is meeting, like I said, it's meeting the expectation of the residents. It's maybe even delivering more than they expect. It's listening to what it is that their problems are. How do we solve them? Are there things that we can do to help? How do we keep Eastridge a safe place to live? How do we keep it a great place to raise your family? How are we responsive? If you call in or email in a question, are you getting a response? Are you getting a timely response? Are you getting an acceptable response? Are you getting a professional response? in my role, in Atoka, I spent a lot more time with direct citizen issues because we manage the utility system, and nothing seems to make folks madder than having water or sewer problems. And so I will take us all the way back, Mayor, to kind of that hiring and getting great people into the organization. One of the first hires we made there in Atoka was looking at one of our utility clerks. And we had a part-time employee who was incredibly proficient at our software system. She could make it do everything you would ever need. She knew the system in and out, but she offered poor customer service. She could refund $100 and you would still be mad at her. That was just her approach. And it was poor customer service. It wasn't focusing on what the citizens needed. So we ended up, we recruited a great employee who had never touched our software system, but was friendly, smiled, demonstrated an ability to learn and a desire to serve, and talked about the value of public service. And Penny Pace went on to be one of our best employees. She was one who worked, and if she wasn't at the drive-thru when somebody came in, people would say, "When will she be back? Because I want to pay the bill to Penny." So I think having employees that citizens feel that way about, that build that connection, that they know we are here to serve them. We're here to listen. Sometimes that's what folks want. Sometimes they're just mad and want an ear to listen, but to do it respectfully and to kind of day in, day out think about how can we meet the needs of our citizens and just do a better job for them. It's got to be constant improvement from the organization.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
Councilmember Witt.
Okay. What would you hope to accomplish your first year if chosen as city manager of East Ridge?
I think key, we talked about the Board of Regents. I think that extension to whatever assistance I can bring there, working with the mayor and with the team to communicate the value of that, not just to East Ridge, but really the value it brings to Tennessee. I know there's a sense that they write a big check to East Ridge, but they keep a big check themselves. Dollars that would be going to Georgia, but for that program. And I think that's an important thing to remind them of. So anything we can do to get that done this legislative session is critical. I mentioned the budget. I think that has to be done. And again, I look at this as a position where I would like to build long-term relationships throughout the organization with you and through the community. And I think that would be a huge priority in that first year.
Councilmember Ezell.
Yes, sir. If you can, describe a particular difficult personnel or discipline situation that you had to address as a supervisor.
I'm not familiar. I'm kidding. Difficult personnel situation. Okay. I'll change the names to protect the innocent. We had two members of our fire department in Riverside who had gone on a call to the nursing home, and situations got heated. Chief, I apologize. I'm not picking on the fire guys. So
He can't hear you.
okay, well then I am picking on the fire guys. He's candy crushing down there, isn't he? But anyway, they were up on a call, and through the conversation, they ended up getting into a verbal altercation with staff of the nursing home, forgetting that they were there to serve the patient, forgetting that the patient was awake and alert, able to hear the conversations. They made some accusations that could have professional impact on one of the nurses at the nursing home. And so we worked through, of course, in Missouri they had a union representation, so we went through the process of disciplining and ultimately dismissing those employees, because that's not the level of service we expect. That didn't represent the department well, that didn't represent the city well, and that's not how we expect people to be treated. That reinforced the message to everybody that doesn't meet our standard, and that won't be acceptable.
Describe a time when you experienced a service failure or a major operational challenge, and what steps did you take to resolve that issue, and what changes would you put in place to prevent it from happening again?
A major service failure. That's a great question. All right, we'll go this way. We built a splash pad. We got an LPRF grant from the state of Tennessee, and we built a splash pad at Walker Park, and it opened in 2008, 2009, I believe, looking back. The operational issue we had was, and it really wasn't an operational issue on our end, but there was a perception issue that got managed in opening it. There were reported in Tipton County, there were reported multiple cases of salmonella. There was a salmonella outbreak in Tipton County about 3 weeks into our second season of the splash pad being open. We had, of course, Facebook warriors explaining everything that had happened. They knew everything. And our failure was we were not communicating effectively enough with our citizens on what was going on out at the splash pad. We were not as proactive as we really should have been. Kind of the lesson we took from that is when there are challenges, let's be forthright with people. Let's talk about, hey, here's why the splash pad is closed. It was closed for an unrelated reason that day. There had been a pump failure, but of course the discussion about salmonella and people started making the connection. Well, the splash pad is unsafe. Once we got the pump issue fixed, we got more forthright in the communication and said, here's what we understand about the situation today. Because I look at the approach that I tend to take in local government in treating people like they're adults and deserve to be talked to respectfully. Let's explain things. Let's try to be reasonable with everybody and trust that they will make the right decision. Let's get them the information and tell them what we know. And again, like I said earlier, if we don't know, let's be comfortable saying we don't know, but we're going to find out. And so in that particular situation, Mayor, we shared, it was probably the longest Facebook post I've ever made as a city employee, but we shared, here's what we know. Here's why the splash pad was closed. We've heard about these cases. Here are the steps we take as the town to keep that facility safe. Here's the testing we do. Here's the chemical treatment process we use. And by the way, we as city staff, we are parents too. And if that facility was not safe, it simply would not be open. We take the responsibility of being stewards of the health of the public incredibly seriously. And so I think that was kind of we had an operational failure, but the real failure for us was just not communicating a little bit better on the front end.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Mayor.
Mr. Coral, how would you handle it if an individual council member asked you to perform a task that was not approved by the entire council?
I think that would come back to the council. The council speaks as a body. If there have been, I've worked for aldermen. Both of the cities that I've served in my 14 years have had aldermen, and there have been aldermen, hey, I think this is great, we should do this. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think get 3 friends and let's go. The body speaks together.
Thank you for your answer.
Yes, sir.
Brian had you touch on this at the beginning, but I'm going to ask it again in case there's something that you want to add.
Yes.
Because we're in budget season. When preparing a budget, how do you prioritize which services and programs will be funded?
I will say, in my first conversation with Mr. Miller, he did promise to have the budget done before he left.
He left.
He is no longer here, so. Sorry, sir. As I said, my vision or my belief in local government, the first priority of local government is public safety. More than half of every dollar a city spends is going to be police, fire, dispatch. It just is. I would also add public works into the public safety realm. So I think making sure that we're providing for the needs of our public safety team is critical. I think balancing, like I said earlier, there's infinite wants and needs are different. There's a lot of wants, and then there are needs. And so being good stewards of those dollars. And I think also looking at, okay, are there programs that we're doing that government is bad about starting a program and then continuing it forever? It happens. Is this still something that we need to do? Is this the best way to deliver the service going forward? Every time in Riverside and Atoka we had a position become vacant, we evaluated it, said, is this still meeting the needs of the organization? We might have really needed this position 3 or 4 years ago, but is it best constituted going forward? Should the job description be reevaluated? Are there things that we could do more efficiently? I believe in looking at ways to use technology as like a force multiplier. There are ways, in public safety services, in our finance operations, are there ways to do things more efficiently? Because if there are routine tasks that can be automated, one of the projects we worked on recently in Riverside was on the finance department, getting the monthly reports to the department heads. That used to be a 2 hour a month process for the finance director to generate and transmit those. We spent 4 hours automating it. So you spent 4 hours on the front end, and in month 1, you're 4 hours in the hole. In month 2, you're 2 hours in the hole. Month 3, you're even, and then you're saving 2 hours every month going forward. So are there ways that we can look at things more efficiently? I think, as I said, budget is about priorities, and so making sure that the budget aligns with the stated priorities of the council is critical as well. Yes.
Mr. Ezell? Okay. My last question is, if we contacted your last council or mayor, what would they say is your greatest strength as a city manager, and what is your biggest area for growth?
I think one of the big strengths is communication. I get information out to the elected officials. I share information with our staff team. I think I shared this with at least one or two during our conversations, but typically after a Board of Aldermen meeting that night before I leave the building, I send out an all-staff email saying, here's what the board discussed and decided tonight. Here's what's going on in the organization. If we had a presentation deck, they get access to that. And it's amazing the questions you get back. I had a frontline dispatcher email me a couple months back saying, hey, I noticed this thing, this new fund in the finance report. What is that about? And that was such an inspiring question that they actually took the time to read what I had said, to go through the slide deck and find something and ask a question. So I think the strength is going to be communication, getting information out to you, getting information to the organization, communicating well with the public, listening, doing my background, doing solid research, and then looking at making sure that, data is incredibly useful in helping us understand trends and ways that we can improve operations, and I like to use data a lot in that. So kind of communication and leveraging technology, I think, would be the strength. I think the area that I could probably be a little bit better about is there are times where I'm inclined to get down into the weeds a little bit on certain things. I've been working on getting better at that and letting our team make those decisions. Part of the time it's just because I'm curious and I'll ask questions. Some people take that as maybe a little bit of distrust, but it's actually asking questions because I'm curious and I want to know how things work. Had a chance to talk to some of the firefighters today and asking questions about the pump system that was on the pumper out at the bay and what they use there. So I ask those questions because I like to know, but sometimes that seems getting down into the weeds a little bit and fixating on some things that my time might be better spent elsewhere.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Final question for me, Mayor. Mr. Corl, how do you balance providing department leaders with autonomy to complete tasks in their own way while maintaining necessary oversight?
That's a great question. I love working with it. First off, as I said, I'm in regular communication with everybody on our leadership team. I'm out of the office. I'm in their offices regularly. I want to have that open and honest conversation with folks. If they have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I want to make sure that we're clearly communicating what the expectations are, and then that they are free and they are the experts in doing the actual work. I'm not an expert in any of these topics. I'm a generalist. I know a little bit about the fire service. I know a little bit about the police service. I really like budget, so I know a little bit more about finance. But we've hired great people into those positions. We've equipped them. We've trained them, and we need to let them be free to do that. I will say, with that, if I see one of our colleagues, a department head or anybody, heading for the proverbial cliff, I'm not going to sit back and say, well, I don't want to micromanage them, so I'll just see how this plays out. My job is to steer them to safety.
Thank you, Mr. Corl.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Coral, thank you very much for your interest and your time here for this opportunity. Is there any last thing you would like to say, mention to the public, to council?
I think, well, first of all, again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff, for the hospitality. I've really enjoyed the time in Eastridge. It's been fantastic, and I hope we have the opportunity to work together going forward. I was walking around the playground just out here yesterday, and there was I'd never seen it done, but some of those inset stones around the playground, some of those quotes are fascinating, and I love it. I took a picture of it. and it was inspiring and encouraging. And said, let us choose to believe that something really good can happen. I love that spirit. I love that that's there. I love that that's at the heart of our community, and I would be honored and excited to work with you in believing that something good can happen going forward. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Well, appreciate it.
Hey, Brian, I was wrong. I think Mr. Miller's outside. I think so.
All right, we will take a short 15-minute break, and then so we'll recess, and we'll be back here in about 15 minutes, which will be about 5 o'clock. Thank you.
You're easy, you're an easy one. You're an easy one.
The easy one to listen to. Mayor, thank you. Appreciate it.
No. Hope you got some good coffee this morning.
I did.
Good.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate you.
really knew that. Had a chance in the sandwich. I was ordering food. They're Jersey Mike's. A bunch of them. Yeah, cookies, brownies, pastries.
That was my first meal today, so
You didn't go back there?
I needed that.
There might be some after the fact. So we'll go back there.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. We got everybody here on the dais.
Over 5 minutes late. Is that a carbon fiber laptop?
See any good? Tyler?
Really would have got up and left, but he just closer. Shouldn't, well, see, I can't see him from here when he moved closer, could you? I thought he did too.
Welcome, Mr. Ross. So, appreciate your interest in the city of East Ridge and you being here for this. We really appreciate your time and that you spent with us. I will ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. That's how we'll open it up, and then we will go around the dais, and each council member will ask a question or some questions. And then, of course, we'll finish with you giving a final statement if you like, or something else you'd like to add. So that's how we'll kick this off. And again,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's good to be here. Thank you, members of the City Council, and thank you, members of the East Ridge community, for having me. It is an honor.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is James Tyson Ross. I go by Ty. My mother is in the audience. She's always called me Ty. My friends and family call me Ty. And she's there with my wife, Jennifer. Fun fact about me is my wife, I'll start with my mother. That's where one should always start. And that she is a proud pioneer. She graduated from East Ridge High School in 1969. I wasn't raised here. She married my father, who's from Dalton, Georgia, and I was raised in the Dalton area, specifically Barnell. I'm married to Jennifer Ross. We've been married for 25 years. She's a school teacher in the Catoosa County school system, and just so happens to be her school is Cloud Springs Elementary School, which is 9 minutes from this building. And so she's super excited about this opportunity because it will shorten her commute. So it's all selfish on her part. We have two wonderful boys. We've replaced ourselves with human beings better than us. My oldest son is 21 years old. His name is James Ross. He's a third-year cadet at the United States Military Academy at West Point. And my youngest son, George Ross, is a senior at Dalton High School, and he will be attending Georgia Tech next fall. So we're about to be empty nesters, and I am excited about the move to East Ridge. My background, I'm an attorney by training. I went to the University of Georgia, where I was a history major. I then went to Georgia State Law School and practiced law for 6 years. During that time, I went to Kennesaw State University at night and got my MBA. During the 6 years of immediate law practice, I was a real estate attorney. And our city attorney will rightfully call me a dirt lawyer. I believe it was great training to become a city manager. I believe a city is a very large real estate development where people come together and share services and assets together. Now, I became a city manager not really by plan and not really by accident. I became a city manager by inspiration. I went through the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Program in my hometown, and of course that consisted of classes and travel and learning about economic development. But at the conclusion of that class, they assigned everyone a mentor, and my mentor just happened to be the city manager. Now all that consisted of was a few lunches together, but I was amazed at the breadth and depth of everything that he was involved in. I found it fascinating. And I was pushing some deeds around and doing some transactions and commercial deals, but I wanted to do more, and it felt like really a life of consequence that I wanted to be a part of. And thanks to my life with Jennifer and our boys, and this strong home front I had, it gave me the opportunity to dream about how I can contribute to the world between 9 and 5 in a better way. And I thought there could not be a better way than to enter the field of city management. So a few years later, the job popped open in Dalton, and I applied. And along with 75 other candidates, I threw my hat in the ring, and they picked me. And so for 7 years in Dalton, Georgia, I was the city manager. There they call it the city administrator. After that, I wanted to continue to learn and broaden my horizons, and I moved to Loudon, Tennessee to become the city manager of Loudon. There, I was also the utility manager, and we had electricity, gas, water, and sewer all under the umbrella of the city. And I didn't know anything about that stuff, but I wanted to learn, and learn I did. And I was there for 7 years. And after that, I had a brief stint in Fernandina Beach, Florida, which wasn't a good fit. And I made a mistake, and I didn't really hold up to the standard that I set for myself. And I made the responsible move to leave that position and come back home. Since that time, I've taken a sabbatical from city management, and I've went back to the legal profession, and I've served senior citizens and those below the poverty line, the least of us, if you will. And I did that through legal aid. I help people who are experiencing domestic violence. I help people with housing issues. I help people stabilize their income. And I really exercised and strengthened my empathy muscles. I think that makes me a better city manager. And really, thanks to the encouragement of my now adult sons, I'm ready to come back to the fray. A better person, a stronger person, a person who, again, wants to contribute and live a life of consequence and help make the city of East Ridge and the citizens that live here, help not just make it a better place, but to continue the good work that you've already done, but hopefully maybe enhance and accelerate to do as much as possible during my term here, which I think could be a long term. I'm 51 years old, and I believe I have a long shelf life, and I'm not planning on going anywhere. And so it's my hope that you'll accept me and allow me to travel with you for a few years. And yeah, that's the long and the short of it.
Thanks, sir. All right, I will kick off the questions, and I'll start as we discussed also yesterday. We're heavy into starting the budget season, and it's going to be one of the major tasks that will be expected as we roll into a new city manager coming in. So if you would, describe your experience developing, managing, and presenting a municipal budget, and what is the largest budget that you've overseen, and what do you use as key financial, or what key financial challenges or priorities that could be involved in that design?
Excellent question. Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. You know, probably the largest budget because of the utility expenditures was in Loudon. That was in excess of $90 million. Your budget, the general fund is 22 million, include capital expenditures and other enterprise type funds. It's around 47 million. So the depth and breadth of what you're working with is something that I'm very familiar with. Now, my take on budgets is a good budget is an expression of maybe what the community is looking for at that particular year during that point in time. But a great budget is a love letter to the community. And what that love letter says, and what that love letter encapsulates, this is the key elements you were talking about, Mayor. It encompasses the identified strategic goals of the elected representatives vetted through strategic planning. It identifies and includes the needs, and sometimes wants, but truly the needs of each department. And those needs have been vetted and identified in the good work that goes in ahead of the drafting of the budget. And so it's key to have open lines of communication and clear inputs from the elected officials who represent the community, as well as get down into the nitty-gritty details of each department that maybe a regular citizen is not aware of. Take all that and put it together, and then explain it in a simplified manner that everyone understands. What's special about 2027? What's different? What is in this love letter to the community that's going to express the level of service delivery that they desire and the stewardship that goes into maintaining all that they put together in the past and everything that they hope to build in the future?
Thanks, sir. Vice Mayor Tyler.
Mr. Ross, how do you view the role of the council in dealing with the administration?
The role of the council, I serve at the will of the council, and that's our form of government. And so, in a sense, I'm on a month-to-month contract. So, and that's by design. People of East Ridge put elected officials in place to govern in their stead. That's our Republican form of government. But in our Constitution of the city of East Ridge, there is a city manager. And I would be the person that's here every day, waking up and coming to work and thinking about what we have been tasked to do and what we have to do this week, this month, and this year to accomplish those tasks. And so the relationship of the city council to the administration filters through me on a day-to-day basis. The buck doesn't stop with me at all times. Again, I work for the mayor and council, but my role, and it's an important role, is to be the facilitator of the desires of the community as expressed through the city council to me, so that I can filter it down to the staff level and the front line to see that those needs are accomplished.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Councilman Cagle.
Mr. Ross, told you yesterday I saved one question for today.
Yes, you did, sir.
All right. It's a two-part question. First part is, have you ever been given the option to resign or to be terminated? Second part is, are there anything in your background that might come back to embarrass the city if we decide to hire you as city manager?
I've never been terminated, and I touched on this earlier. What I did is I left because I made a mistake, and no one was more disappointed in that mistake than myself. And so I took radical responsibility for it. What happened, and this is what might come up, and I think it might be what you're alluding to, Councilman Cagle, is in the year 2023, it was Georgia-Florida weekend and Georgia-Florida football weekend. And me and my Bulldog buddies, I went to the University of Georgia, I was on the football team, I'm a letterman. And so I get a little excited on Georgia football weekend. And down in Florida, I went to a party that weekend and I had too much to drink. I did what I thought at the time was a responsible thing, and I rode my bicycle home. However, I wrecked my bicycle by curbing the wheel on the sidewalk, and I went over the handlebars. I crashed. I hurt my wrist, and I was shaken up. A passerby on a moped dialed 911. Still shaken up, a police officer pulled up and picked me up, brushed me off, put my bicycle in the back of a Ford Explorer, and gave me a ride to my Airbnb, where I was staying until my family moved down there. They were still trying to sell their home in Tennessee. Well, that came and went. I had just finished hiring a new police chief, and in hindsight, that might have been a mistake as well, because I hired the police chief that the council wanted me to. Maybe there should have been more process there. Maybe there should have been more vetting. But certain members of the force weren't happy with that decision. And someone that didn't get the job leaked what happened to an internet provocateur, and it became a thing. And again, no one was more disappointed than me. I took radical responsibility for it, and I resigned. That was the thing to do. It was the only thing to do. But Lou Holtz died yesterday, and I think what Lou Holtz said that most inspired me was life is only 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you react to it. And the way I reacted was to rededicate myself to public service, to go to work for the Georgia Legal Services Program, helping the less fortunate. And I've done that for two years. I love what I do. It's God's work, and I tap dance to work every day. But my adult sons, again, could tell I missed the profession, and they encouraged me to jump back into the fray. And that's why I'm here with you today, because I think I paid my penance. I think I'm good at this. I think I'm the right person at the right time to help lead East Ridge into the future. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to thank you for being open and honest, so then there should be no embarrassment back to the city. So thank you.
There's only one person in the room that should be embarrassed, and that's me.
Thank you. Let's move on.
Okay? In your opinion, what does a successful communication between the city manager and the council look like?
That communication should be strong and robust, and it should be regular and built upon trust. The communication between a city council member and a city manager should logically follow the cadence of government. And when I say the cadence of government, this council meets on a calendared basis. Business is prepared for the council to debate and consider. There should be no surprises at a council meeting as to what is being debated or considered. These things should be presented ahead of time to each council member so that, again, there's no surprises. So every council member is a different person and has different wants and needs. But what I will do is strive to accommodate each council member's own personal communication preferences so that they are abreast and have the knowledge that they feel they need going into a meeting so that they're not confused, surprised, or bewildered by what's presented. Because if something, a phrase often used in local government is, I feel like I'm sandbagged. Well, that shouldn't happen. If something's not ripe for the council, if it hasn't been clearly understood and discussed, then maybe you should wait a while until the proper communication is taking place. That's my basic philosophy on communication with council members.
Thank you.
How you doing, Mr. Ross?
Just fine, sir.
If appointed, what do you think the biggest challenges are facing you here in East Ridge?
The biggest challenges facing East Ridge have to do, that's a great question, it's a combination of legacy issues as well as finding the tools and instrumentation to move past the legacy issues so that the city can evolve and move forward in a manner that the citizenry desires. Now, East Ridge is boxed in between the Ridge and Chattanooga. East Ridge is a mature community built linearly along Ringgold Road and other certain avenues, and it built out quickly. It was at one time the fastest growing city in Tennessee, if not the country. And because of that, many of the buildable parcels have already been built on. Some of those structures have aged. Some have become dilapidated. Some need to be refurbished. We have to identify on an incremental basis, as money and time allows, through the instrumentation that we put in place all the way back in 2011 with the Border Region Act, to revitalize these tired structures. I joked with the mayor that, in certain parts of East Ridge, and especially in certain commercial sectors, East Ridge looks a little scruffy. Well, that's something we can work on. And that's the work of a lifetime. And that's the work that I want to undertake.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. My next question is, how would you describe your leadership, problem solving style? And if you can give examples of how you adapt your approach to different personalities, changing circumstances, and administrative challenges.
Mr. Mayor, I am a collaborative leader. I'm smart enough to know that I'm not always the smartest person in the room. And so, in learning that, I'm not afraid to ask for help. And the quickest avenue of help is through not just the elected body, but through the department heads whose shoulders I stand on and lean on. And my collaborative approach is essentially, and I love sports analogies, if a problem presents itself, we have a huddle up. And we're going to attack that problem by getting the perspective of the subject matter experts that are closest to the topic. Now, I call that sort of the design phase. We're going to design a solution together. And the ideas, oftentimes the best ideas, are going to come from the front line, as communicated by the department heads. An example of my leadership approach will happen the first week I work here. I'm going to ask each and every department head that if you were king or queen of the world, what would you ask for? What would you change? What's been sticking in your craw for 20 years that you wish you could do something about right now? Because now's the time to act. We're going to write all that down. We're going to whiteboard it. And we're going to work through that and identify what's realistically tangible. And we will work to implement that over time. That's just one example of my leadership style and collaborative approach.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor.
Mr. Ross, could you describe your experience with economic development and what role have you played in your previous positions?
Yeah. I've never built anything, but I have facilitated projects. I've facilitated projects in Georgia, in Dalton. I facilitated projects in Tennessee, in Loudon. Those were mainly industrial projects because our economic development apparatus there was through the Economic Development Authority, or joint boards between city and county. In Dalton, it was about protecting and preserving the carpet industry, which employed over 60,000 people in our area. And so the floor covering industry was a competitive industry, and so we put economic incentives in place to allow them to modernize, retool, and expand in order to protect that employment in Northwest Georgia. In Loudon, it was very similar, but more diversified. Loudon's not the carpet capital of the world. Its key industries were centered on the Tennessee River. It was the boating industries, for example, Malibu boats, and different mills associated with wet production, whether it be Tate & Lyle or Kimberly-Clark. And so our incentive program was, again, to help them retool, modernize, and expand to protect the jobs that were there. Now, I've had success facilitating new jobs. In Loudon, we attracted and created 600 jobs for an electric vehicle air conditioning manufacturer. It's very important to keep the batteries cool in these new electric vehicles. And so we attracted a manufacturing plant there. And that's just one example. But here in East Ridge, the challenge is different. We're built out, and we're not built for heavy industry. We're built for retail sales, sales tax. Set people that spend money, who stop and visit the city of East Ridge, whether it be to have a meal, stay in a hotel, or attend a sporting event of the many that we host at Camp Jordan. And so the mechanism is in place. The assets are in place. The magnets and hooks, if you will, to lure in those tax dollar spenders. And so it's my job to enhance and make the Border Region Act as valuable as it can be during the time period that we have it. Now, hopefully it will be extended over time, but that's no guarantee. So we have to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And in so doing, we need to push the pedal to the metal and get as many projects, shovels in the ground as we can, or at least estimated on paper by the year 2027, so that we can continue to collect the sales tax we need, because that subsidizes our tax base. It helps keep property taxes low for the residents of East Ridge. And if we're able to spend free money, essentially, that comes from elsewhere, again, it's less taxes that we have to pay as a community here.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Okay.
With
Describe actions you have initiated and taken that were unpopular with segments of the city. What did you do to come to an understanding with these individuals or groups regarding these actions?
An unpopular decision, at least at first, because it was change, was the construction of a new city hall in Loudoun. The city hall had traditionally been in the downtown area, the downtown proper, just across the street from the courthouse. Well, the main thoroughfare in Loudoun, think Ringgold Road, is Highway 72. And an opportunity presented itself because the University of Tennessee's Medical Center, that its branch that was in the city of Loudoun, closed. The University of Tennessee Medical Center pulled back to Knoxville. But it left Class A office space that was available. And it was perfect for a city hall, or at least 1,000 times better than what we were in at the time. And so we made the move out to Highway 72, which was the largest traffic count in the city, and we took advantage of that space. And we saved $4 million doing so, because all we had to do was, again, renovate, tweak existing Class A office space rather than razz an old structure and build new from scratch. We used that cost savings. Now, who did it upset? It had upset some of the downtown business owners that immediately adjoined City Hall. They felt that the people that worked in the City Hall would not frequent their stores or eat lunch at their establishments. They felt by us moving 3 miles down the road, we were hurting their businesses. And they weren't wrong to the extent that the people that actually worked in City Hall. However, what we were able to do with the cost savings is open up Loudoun's waterfront on the Tennessee River, i.e. Watts Bar Lake. We used that $4 million to acquire old, dilapidated factories that were between the courthouse and the water that prevented the citizens of Loudoun from having a view of the Tennessee River. We acquired those properties, we demolished those buildings, and we reclaimed Loudoun's waterfront, all with the cost savings of the move. So at the end of the day, yeah, a few lunches were missed, but we reclaimed our downtown and our waterfront.
Mr. Ross, can you describe a particular difficult personnel or discipline situation that you had to address as a supervisor?
Yes, it's important in any organization. If you're going to go from good to great, you have to have the right people on the bus. And so sometimes you might have difficulty when, let's say, we plan and we stack hands on what we're going to do. What is an objective that we're trying to achieve? And we have a contract, if you will. So-and-so is going to do this to help accomplish that objective. And then it doesn't get done. Well, it's my job as a manager to take the initiative to try and handle the situation. In situations like that, I'm a big believer in second chances. And so I want to make that person aware that they're falling short of the goal. I want to create and document a written improvement plan of how we're going to improve the current situation and move towards accomplishing our goal. That's the way you do things in professional management. And the city attorney will appreciate the documentation of where someone has fallen short. However, sometimes it doesn't work out. And I don't know, I beat myself up on that sometimes. I can count on one hand the number of people I've had to let go. But I think about them each and every day. And that's my take on it, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Ross, what does excellent customer service in local government look like to you? What systems or metrics do you use to evaluate whether the services are meeting the needs and expectations of our residents?
You know, you could almost say he won capitalism. But when Jeff Bezos created Amazon, he did so with exemplary customer service. Amazon impressed people. That's why they started to use it. And so customer service should impress. And what I would do with our department heads is we would work together to identify key performance indicators, or KPIs. These are the statistics that you might find on the back of a baseball card. Home runs, steals, what have you. Now, each department's different. Each service within the city is different. But they all have the stats that they want to keep on the back of their baseball card. Together, we'll identify what those statistics are, and we'll work to accomplish it. And those statistics will be geared towards exemplary customer service at the front line. For example, think about a football card, and they might have sacking the quarterback as a statistic on the back. Well, that statistic wasn't tracked until the 1980s. But then they started counting sacks, and you had the sack king and the person with the most sacks. Well, they did it again and again and again. All of a sudden, quarterbacks were getting sacked all the time. And they had to put in new rules to protect quarterbacks. Why did that happen? Because they started looking at tracking a number. So the numbers we will identify will be important. We'll track them, and people will strive to reach those numbers, and there'll be numbers geared towards the satisfaction of our customers, which is the members of the City of Eastridge community.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Ross, tell us how you would handle a project that was over budget.
If a project's over budget, I have no choice but to take responsibility for it. I haven't followed it adequately during that project's progress, or I haven't planned that project properly at the front end. For example, you might take a project and pick the low bidder, and then there's change orders down the road that cause the cost of the project to go up. Well, what are those change orders? Why weren't they anticipated? The trick is to do the front end work to identify, with help, don't do hard things alone, with help of engineers and professionals that can drill down and identify the specific facets of the project so that there's no surprises. If you put out something to bid without a lot of information and you haven't planned it accordingly, you can expect surprises. So the key is to get the right people in the room to plan the project ahead of time, to bid it with all the plans and specifications included, and then to vet all the bids so that we know, and we've confirmed by following up with the bidders, whether all the particular facets of the project are included in the bid. And that way we know that it's a good bid and we won't have to have as many surprises down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Okay. What would you hope to accomplish in your first year if chosen as city manager of Eastridge?
During my first year, the city of Eastridge, I would hope to have internalized the issues and the hopes and desires of this community, as articulated through elected officials, as communicated to me through department heads, and as communicated by the public in public comments at meetings. It's important the first year to listen. Again, listen and internalize all these hopes and dreams so that they become a part of my DNA too. And once I've internalized it, then I'm prepared to be a better city manager to help lead this community into the future.
Thank you.
I got no more.
All right. Describe a time when you experienced a service failure or a major operational challenge. What steps did you do to resolve that issue, and what changes were implemented to prevent it from happening again?
Well, I'll talk specifically about sewer overflows in the city of Loudoun. We had an aged sewer pipe infrastructure that couldn't handle the current demands that were being placed upon it. And because of deferred maintenance over many decades, these pipes at the manhole level and at other levels would overflow. And so what you had is wastewater entering the environment and possibly our creeks and rivers. This is monitored by the state, and it's a big deal. And so we had to address it, and the way we addressed it was, again, don't do hard things alone. We engaged the subject matter experts to go out and investigate these pipes. I think the non-technical term is smoking them. It's in smoke into the pipes to see where the smoke comes out of the ground. And that's where you know where the leaks are. And so we mapped, investigated, and identified all the leaks. Now, we couldn't fix them all overnight. Again, it was an aged system. But we put in place a plan to incrementally, street by street, chip away at the problem until it was ultimately solved. And that work is still ongoing. But because of the accident, we were to identify the root of the problem and begin to fix it.
Thanks, sir. Mayor?
Mr. Ross, how would you handle it if an individual council member asked you to perform a task that was not approved by the entire council?
Well, the first thing I would do is explain to that elected official that what you're tasking me with is outside of my managerial control. In other words, it's not a matter that fits inside one of the agreed upon and budgeted service delivery areas that we can put it in. And so if it's not a service delivery area that's previously identified, or budgeted, then it's something that the city council has not agreed upon yet. And what I would explain to that council member is, you cannot do things, we cannot do what you're asking me to do as an individual. You need a team up. You need your fellow council members, or at least the majority of your fellow council members, to accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. Now, that's when I become a facilitator and teach from a civics perspective how that council member might bring that topic to the greater circle so that it can be debated, discussed, and eventually move forward or not. But it's not a backroom deal. It's something that takes place in here.
Great answer, thank you.
This is my last question. You have touched on it with Brian's first question. When preparing a budget, how do you prioritize which services and programs will be funded?
Mm-hmm. Now, we don't have a problem money can't solve. Problem is we don't have an endless supply of money. We have a finite supply of money. We have what revenues are generated in our city on an annual basis. That's a fixed number, or a number that we can get real close to estimating. And I think the gist of your question was about priorities. So there's only a finite amount of money, and so, but that's the good work that goes in ahead of time. Again, internalizing these wants and needs, making it part of my DNA. I understand what the priorities are, because those have been previously identified by the mayor and council through budget workshops or strategic planning sessions. We've got a numbered list. It's written down. It's not a secret. Now, we want to work through the departments to accomplish that list. We want to tick them off one at a time because that feels great to accomplish things. But we may not be able to accomplish everything on that list with the finite amount of money we have. So together with the department heads, we have to prioritize. Yes, in that big meeting we had the first week I was on staff, when you said you were keying it for a day, you wanted this, this, and this. Well, can't have all three of those things, but maybe we can chip away at the first one. And within those priorities that we vet internally, we will then present to the council that here's the things you wanted, here's the things we found, and here's the things we found that you didn't know about, and we have prioritized them for you to consider in your budget ordinance.
Mr. Ross, so my last question, as it was in our one-on-one, if I contacted your last council or mayor, what would they say is your greatest strength as a city manager and your biggest area for growth?
I think my greatest strength would just be my passion for the job. You know, I said at the very beginning, I feel this is a job of consequence that matters. I think they would say that's my greatest strength, is just passion for the job. I think they would also say that's my greatest weakness, is I might be too passionate. And I'll give you an example. I think I first became city administrator of Dalton when I was maybe 35 years old, 34, 35. And we didn't have a large staff. We didn't have grant writers. And I wanted to do things that we didn't have money for. And so I had to write all the grants myself. You know, and I applied for lots of grants, and got some of them, didn't get others. But over time, and as I matured as an adult and as a city manager, I learned the power of delegation, the ability to recruit and retain a team that can help do things like that. A team of subject matter experts and talented people to assist me in not having to go it alone.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Tyler.
Mr. Ross, how do you balance providing department leaders with autonomy to complete tasks in their own way while maintaining necessary oversight?
Regular checkups. I mean, it needs to be checkups with department heads need to be on the calendar. And I'm not one to sit in the office and with my thumb up. You know what? I'm a walk around manager. You won't see me taking a lot of meetings in my office. I would prefer to go to the department and talk to them there. I think I can get a better feel for things there. And having those regular scheduled meetings that, again, follow the cadence of local government life within the city of East Ridge. We'll meet before the meeting to prepare for the meeting. We'll meet after the meeting to debrief the meeting. Did we accomplish what we want? What do we want to accomplish the next month? Again, it's the regular calendaring of meetings. If it's not calendared, it doesn't exist. And it will be calendared, and those conversations will be had, and those conversations will be welcomed. Those conversations will be welcomed because they're conversations with Ty. My managerial style is not one that turns people off. I declare war on the Sunday scaries. That feeling you have on Sunday afternoon that, good gosh, I got to go to work on Monday. I want people to tap dance to work. I want people to look at a meeting with me as something that is joyful and something to look forward to.
Mr. Ross?
Do you have any, is that your, that was your
That's
last?
it for me.
All right. Any last statements, questions?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, members of this fine community of City of East Ridge, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I look forward to working with you.
Mr. Ross, thank you very much for your interest in East Ridge and your time that you spent here with us. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hello, Mr. Midkin. We appreciate you being here today. I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Then we will go around the dais and ask individual questions from each council member, and then we'll give you an opportunity to say something at the very end. But let's go ahead and kick it off and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Hi, everybody out there. My name is Rick Rudemetkin. I've been in public service now 23 years and a total of 32 years. 9 years with an engineering company is how I started, and I went from private sector to public sector because of that. Married, have a daughter. I am an ICMA credential manager. I also have a certified public manager credential, and I'm a certified advocate for public ethics, and I have a certificate for that as well. Started out as an inspector for the engineering company, basically not a building inspector, but a public works inspector for infrastructure projects. And I really got to understand the process of public projects and how it works, because our company was contracted by a number of cities to do all their infrastructure work, buildings, and beautification. So that's where I kind of cut my teeth on seeing how public entities work through an engineering glass, if you will. I worked my way up to county administrator, county manager, city administrator, and city manager. So I've kind of been part of and been every one of those. And there are differences, but there are also a lot of similarities with those. I am currently the city manager of Belle Isle, Florida, which is a small 5 square mile city. We have 60% of our land is water. So we have a bunch of recreation on our lakes. So that's a unique place. And we are surrounded basically by Orange County, which is a county in Florida. So with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. I'll go ahead and I'll start the first question. And as the new city manager comes in, one of the first major activities is going to be preparing the budget and presenting it. So that'll be my first question out here. So describe your experience developing, managing, and presenting a municipal budget, and kind of give us an idea of your largest budget you've overseen and how you track the priorities that are involved in for the key financial challenges.
Okay, let's do the amounts first. So biggest, 130 million. Smallest, probably where I'm at now, is about 15 million all in, including unrestricted fund balance. And so when you're preparing budgets, and I've done it my whole career, but I also did it at the engineering company, because the cities would give us a budget and basically what their cost is for a certain project, right? And I was a construction manager, so I would be able to see that project from inception to notice to occupy. So we worked with the cities on their budgets as well, as far as, value engineering and some of the other stuff you have to do to make a project on budget, worth it, and the whole shot. So for me, when I'm budgeting or when I'm working, number one, working with the finance director, okay, that's what we need to do, looking at previous budgets, but then also looking at what the priorities are. So you have council, priority, vision, needs, wants, desires, so you have to look at that. Then you go into public safety. And public safety in most communities is extremely important. So to be able to provide that service to the communities is important to me. So I look at that. Then I look at also what the department heads' needs are, right? And what the wants and desires. Capital improvement program, basically to say, okay, what do we have going on? And then future, right? Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years out. Usually CIP's five years. And then citizens, right? Citizens might have a request, or they might have a petition, or they might have something that maybe is very important to a particular section. We need to actually look at that. So I look at all that. I also look at performance-based budgeting and zero-based budgeting. We're going to have to do zero-based budgeting where I'm at, because basically it's from the last year. We're going to keep the same. We're a little bit concerned about property tax reform, which they're doing in Florida right now, so how that's going to affect us. So I use those types of things, and we can put together a good budget. And then in my experience, we have workshops with the council to go over these things prior to getting the budget approved per state statute. So I like doing that as well. And so we can all talk and see what's really important for the community for this particular year and move forward.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Rudemetkin, how do you view the role of the council in dealing with the administration?
Okay. So there's a couple of different setups. You have the council manager form of government. You have a strong mayor form of government. I've been involved with both. Council basically sets priorities, sets vision, sets the direction for the community, approves the budget, listens to the community for the needs. I'm the guy that carries it out. So, and then basically as the administrator, if you will, I work with the department heads and make sure that what gets done here is implemented in the community. I handle day-to-day operations, but I'm always in contact with the elected body to make sure that the vision that we put together is being, I guess, put forward, right, within the community. And you have to do that so there's continuity with everything. I mean, we're a service company. Our clients are our residents and our citizens. So providing a good customer service and providing things and projects and moving things forward is very important. You don't want to stay stagnant. So I like to make sure that everything we're doing is taken care of and that the vision is being pushed forward and keep pushing forward.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I have a two-part question.
Okay.
All righty. Have you ever been given the option to resign or be terminated? That's the first part. Second part is, are there anything in your background that might come to embarrass the city of East Ridge if we decide to hire you?
Okay. Let's take the second part of that question. Absolutely not. No. Have I ever been? Yes, I have. I had a non-disclosure, non-disparagement, there's two differences there, agreement with one particular city. I was only there 6 months. And it was over a particular situation, and I actually followed the policy, and I was asked to leave. They didn't say resign. However, because of the agreement, you can probably imagine there was more to that. And because of that agreement, I can't talk about it. However, that happened. Thankfully, one of the mayors from the neighboring cities heard about it. A month and a half later, he hired me as the city administrator. So you kind of put the pieces together. But yes, that has happened to me. It's not fun. When you think you're doing what you're supposed to do, and then something happens, but that's the nature of the position that we hold as executive. We're at the mercy of the elected body, right? We take a lot of risk when that happens. But having integrity, having honesty, doing what's right is great. Still might not be enough for something like that to happen. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In your opinion, what does successful communication between a city manager and a council look like?
Collaboration and open communication. Use all the different types. Text message, email, phone call, right? Meetings. I want to be able to let you guys know what's going on. What you don't want to do is if something happens in the community, I get told about it, and I'm like, oh, I'll just take care of it. And you guys don't know about it. Media calls you, resident calls you, somebody calls you. You're not prepared to talk about it because we have not talked. We have not collaborated. We have not done anything. So for me, what it looks like for me is how I keep in touch is I ask you guys, how do you want to be communicated with? Some like email, some like phone calls, some like text messages. So to be able to let you know what's going on a weekend or something, you know, for off hours, I go ahead and call or text or whatever. Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I heard, just to give you a heads up. Transparency is extremely important. And you don't want to get into things that are going to be not appreciated by residents, staff, myself, or yourself. So open and honest communication and as much as possible, right? So that you guys know what's going on. It's your company, right? So you need to know what's going on, and me as your executive need to make sure you're in the loop. So anything and everything to make sure you know what's going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If appointed, what do you think the biggest challenges are facing you here in East Ridge?
So with my experience, I pretty much, I mean, you can just say I've kind of seen it all, right? We've all kind of seen it all doing this type of position. My biggest challenge will be learning the culture of East Ridge, right? So every place is different. When I went from Texas to Florida, I had to learn Florida state statutes. I had to learn the Sunshine Law for transparency is really, really big there. So I had to learn that. But once I learned it, I had to make sure that everybody was following it, right? You and another council member can't even hardly be seen together or talk about stuff, right? So it's giving you the opportunity to have the information so everybody stays within the parameters of the rules. So for me, I'm a quick learner. So I come in, learn personalities, learn the needs, learn the vision, learn the statutes, and learn the community, getting out to basically listen and meet the citizens and business owners is really important for me. So I guess that the challenge again is just getting acclimated to the new agency and the new state, if you will. But wouldn't be a challenge for long.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. How would you describe your leadership and problem-solving style, and provide some examples of how you would adapt your approach to address different personalities, changing circumstances, and administrative changes?
Yeah. Mayor, can you repeat the first part of that? The
How would you
leadership
describe
style?
your leadership and problem-solving style?
Problem solving. Okay. My leadership style has evolved over the years. Back in the day, it was a servant leader type of, just my personality, my beliefs, servant leader. And like I said before, we are a service company. But that has morphed into, and you said the word, adapt. So I have an adaptive style of leadership is what I call it now. You use all the different styles of leadership to adapt to a certain group, culture, state, agency, right? So I use kind of all of them, if you will. When you're dealing with people, people are what we do. It's what we serve, right? So understanding that and being able to not have such a hard head, right? So you go into something, well, I have this particular style, and I don't care what you think about that. That's not successful governance, right? So you have to be able to be all things to all people sometimes, and that means you may have to change up the way you interact or lead. Not necessarily it's a weakness, but basically it's just allowing people to know that you're willing to change, or you're willing to see and willing to feel what they feel. Problem solving is you address problems head on. A lot of people don't. They don't like drama. They push the problems aside. If a problem comes up, I'm not going to open the drawer and stick it in. I'm going to address it right away. And that's the way you be successful more with problems, is you head on, right? And sometimes the problems, if you do them head on, they're easy. Sometimes they're not, and they take a little bit more time. So I try to use a collaborative approach for problems. Why is it a problem? Who else knows about the problem? Have we tried to fix the problem in the past? And if not, okay, let's tackle it. We've tried this, well, maybe we need to try this. So that's how I kind of use that. And that all goes in with the adaptive leadership style, because you adapt to certain ways to try to figure out which way works best to solve any kind of thing that comes up.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rudebeckin, could you describe your experience with economic development and what role you played in your current or previous positions?
Yeah, economic development is the lifeblood of an agency. If you don't have economic development, economic redevelopment, economic revitalization, if you don't have those aspects in an agency for a community, you're kind of stagnant and kind of just sitting there kind of doing nothing, right? So most of my career, I've dealt with economic development. I got, like I said, at an engineering company, that's all we did was we got the contracts from the agencies to basically increase or do their economic development. A lot of revitalization, right? A lot of repurposing, a lot of beautification. So I've done all those things all throughout my career. Some of the highlights, in one agency, we were going to do a 100-acre mixed-use site. Basically amphitheater, restaurants, high-density housing, low-density housing, bus parking, and a bus terminal. And then with the YMCA right next to it, it was going to bring it together really good. That was one. Another one was a 300-acre mixed-use site. Beautiful. So rivers in front of it, mountains in the back, and we're going to put this big, huge development in. 2 wineries, mixed use, amphitheater. So I've been very blessed to be part of those things. And at the county, oil and gas county, so you're getting multi-million-dollar projects, natural gas plants, drilling rigs, warehouses, offices. You're getting all this stuff, and we want them in our county. So being able to, woo the businesses in there was a big issue for us because it provided so much revenue, and then working deals with them so they come into us rather than the neighboring county. So I'm excited about what's going on here. It's one of the reasons why I applied for here, was because your vision of what you're trying to do with development is pretty good. I'm pretty much landlocked. I can't do anything where I'm at. And so, but we just maintain what we have. And we do a lot of redevelopment for homes. So with that aspect, it's nice, but I enjoy the other. But that's my experience all the way through.
Thank you, Mr. Rumakin.
Describe actions you have initiated and taken that were unpopular with segments of the city, and what did you do to come to an understanding with these individuals or groups regarding these actions?
Sometimes almost everything you do will have opposition, but that's not a bad thing, right? People have opinions. We're all people. We all have opinions. I like things and I don't like things, right? But that doesn't mean I'm not going to get on board with something because the majority said this is the direction we're going, and we follow the direction and we move forward. I'll give you an example. So my current agency, we contract our fire service with the county. We're too small to have our own fire service, and it's very expensive. So they tried that before and it didn't work. So for our community, so we contracted with the county. The service can be better. Last year they sent me a letter out of the blue and said, we're raising your fee for fire service 0.6 of a mil, which 1 mil is about $1 million in revenues, taxes, right? So the 3-letter bad word is tax, right? So they sent me a letter, they're raising it. I and my mayor were talking about what are we going to do to cover $650,000. That's a lot for a small community. There was no meeting, there was no nothing. They just said, this is what you're going to pay now. We just finished budget. So now we have to add $650,000 from our unrestricted fund balance to cover the increase. And then I had to go back to council and tell them that. Of course, they were not happy with the increase. So we came up with a plan for increasing millage to cover the fire increase. That took a form all its own. So residents thought we were increasing the tax to raise salaries, to give myself a raise. You can imagine what they were talking about. How dare you raise, right? So I spent a year mentoring and talking about how this increase is just to cover an increase from an outside agency that basically just threw it at us. And so all through that process, I was very kind, very nice. I met with the residents when they were talking. I actually showed them the letter and I showed them what's going on. This is not us. This is not us trying to just increase just because. This is us saying this was an expense for the fire service for you, and therefore they're charging us this, and we have to do that as well. So after a year, the council, instead of putting a 0.6, allocated a 0.38, which wasn't the full amount, which we listened to our residents, but we also knew we had to put something in the coffers to replace. So that was a very, anything when you do that, it gets contentious, and there's a whole bunch of stories that go around like why you're doing it. Rumors, you start hearing it's over here by the time you get done. So we spent a lot of time explaining that. And we got it in, and it was a good thing for our budget, and it replaced our unrestricted fund balance because we use that for hurricanes down there.
Yes, sir. How about describing your experience, if any, in stormwater runoff project?
I've been doing that my whole career. I'm the current floodplain administrator for my city. We do a lot of that. We have an MSTU in place, which is a municipal taxing unit, which basically is a non-ad valorem fee for stormwater, because we have flooding in Florida. We have flooding in New Mexico like crazy as well. But Florida, we're able to put an MSTU in to put money every single year to take care of storm drain projects. I've designed storm drain projects myself with an engineer. I put in storm drains 120 inches, 35 feet deep in cities. We use baffle boxes. In Washington, if you build a subdivision, you have to have runoff or a detention or retention pond. Up there, it's so hilly, we were putting underground water storage in concrete boxes in the subdivision, and then it would go in, filter it out, and then it would run down into the creeks and into Lake Sammamish, right? Sammamish is a high-end city, because we wanted to save the kokanee salmon and get the kokanee salmon to swim back up the river. So we put fancy valves and storm water gates and all this for the salmon to run up. It's a little excessive than what you mean just by drainage, right? I've worked with big wide riverbeds about as wide as this room, where water comes through and collects and then ends up at a beach in an ocean, and then you have to mitigate and closing the ocean and doing sand dredging and all kinds of crazy stuff. But yes, I've been heavily involved in my whole career on storm drain. I did hear about the flooding here. Your canals get clogged up if they're not maintained. If you get a blockage somewhere, it backs everything else up. So to make sure that you are sized properly is important too. If your pipe's 24 inches, but when you do the study, you need 48 inches, a choke point like that can be a real problem. And then when you have basically creeks that expand, and I can go on forever. So, but yes, I have experience. Thank you.
What does excellent customer service in local government look like to you? And what systems or metrics do you use to evaluate those services are meeting the needs and expectations of our residents?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No problem. I know it's a long question.
Yeah.
What does excellent customer service in local government look like to you? And then what systems or metrics do you use to evaluate those services are being met and being met for our residents?
Okay. Customer service, again, is what we do. We provide the service to our community. Excellent customer service isn't making everybody happy. Excellent customer service is providing what the community needs and making sure that that gets maintained. Because not everybody's going to be happy with what we're doing, right? You pave a road over here, but you don't pave a road. Some people aren't happy, but you have a program in place to make sure that you do hit that particular thing. Excellent customer service also is returning phone calls. A lot of times somebody will call, a resident will call, and some places I've been, they don't return the call. Oh, they'll go away if we don't call. No, you call them back. And also if somebody calls and says, hey, I want this particular thing fixed. Well, I'm sorry, so-and-so, but that's not in the city, that's in the county. I can't help you. It's not good customer service. I'm sorry it's not in the city. However, let me get you a phone number, or let me get to the person that you can call, and you can call them. And then if you don't have luck with them, give me a call back. Maybe I can give you something else. That's customer service. As far as metrics, we've done Survey Monkeys. How are we doing, right? And we send it out to the residents, and then they will come back, and a lot of times they have good ideas for us to implement, that maybe we can do something different. Maybe we go social media more, right, and put something out. Maybe we can do something during a council meeting where we give information. We can do something like that, just ideas, but we need to put things in place where the community knows that we're trying, we're transparent, and basically that we are interested in listening to them. Sometimes when people call, you just listen to see what's going on. and then tell them why we're moving in this particular direction. So I've done a lot of those things and try to enhance how we can do better, but sometimes you go right to the source and ask them.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Rudemecken, can you tell us how you would handle a project that was over budget?
Okay, number one, over budget is different than change orders. So over budget, you stop non-critical stuff right away, right? So we're running into stop. So non-critical stuff right away. Then maybe you look at value engineering, what you already have in place, right? What can we do without? So letting things go and just enjoying the project as is, oh, it's going to overrun, but wait till you see it get done. That might not be the goal. The goal is staying within budget. So what can we get for what we need? Again, stop all non-critical issues with the budget, have a meeting, see what's going on with it, maybe have a meeting and say, hey, bring it to you and say, hey, we have this project, but maybe we need to cut it back. What are you willing to do without, right? So that's where the value engineering, you can do value engineering, which is basically just cutting, right? But value, it's a fancy way to say it. But value engineering could be successful because maybe you didn't need that particular thing. And if you cut it and stay within budget, now you have money to use for something else, right? Rather than spending and overspending for something. But that's what you do. You stop, reevaluate, reassess, and then go from there.
Great answer. Thank you.
What would you hope to accomplish in your first year if chosen as a city manager?
Number one's relationships. I like relationships. I actually like people. So I want to know who they are. I want to be able to meet with them and get to know you guys, get to know the department heads, get to know what's going on. So the first year, you're learning policy. You're seeing what the vision is. Here in particular, you have the border region district. So making sure that continues is extremely important for Eastridge. So that is going to be something, because I think you have a cutoff date next year, and you guys are looking into trying to extend that for 5 more years, which would give a whole lot more breathing room and give more that we can keep going. But if that doesn't work, what can we get done before that? So you need to be proactive and keep going that. How's the departments running? Are we fully staffed, right? So you look at those types of things. And then are we doing what's best for the whole community, right? So what's this portion or this portion or this portion or this portion? What do they need? What do they want? So the first year, I want to make sure that we carry on, operations are going forward, but also look at ways that we can be more efficient. Maybe we can try to see about maybe generating more revenue, even though what you have going is a really good revenue generator. I've been in agencies where we don't have that. So what can we do to generate more revenue? Do we have to cut back? Or do we try to do something with maybe a different fee? So there's nuances to all of it. So that's what I would do in the first year. Learn. Make relationships and try to make the city as efficient as possible and move forward with the vision.
No more questions.
Okay. Describe a time when you experienced a service failure or a major operational challenge, and what steps did you take to resolve that issue from preventing it to happen again? So, describe a time when you experienced a service failure or a major operational challenge, and then what steps did you take to resolve it and keep it from happening again?
I think the one that stands out in my mind, and this was one of my biggest challenges as well in my career, just became county manager, my first one. And I was just like, all right, this is going to be great. Then I find out right away that we have a misappropriation in our county of $13 million. $13 million was misappropriated, not embezzled. So I want to make sure everybody understands. It wasn't embezzlement, but it was a misappropriation for actually a good reason. Restricted funds were removed from the Treasury to pay for the hospital. The hospital was experiencing low revenues, so the current executive was siphoning money off the Treasury to keep the hospital open. That's illegal. So basically what I inherited that, brand new, right? But I inherited this. So I took the ball and ran with it. So what we had to do was I had to go to the governor's office, go in the principal's office, right, and say, hey, we have a problem here. They said, Rick, replace the treasury. With what? So we got together a team, underwriter, financial expert, an attorney, and we basically made this group to replace the treasury. So how we wanted to do that was with IRBs, industrial revenue bonds, and we wanted to get basically suitors to buy our debt, right? Interest rates are high when you do that, right? Because they know they got you when you have to replace. So it stopped services. I had to lay employees off. That was not good. Especially employees who couldn't find jobs, because this was a rural area I was in. And I will tell you, it was difficult. I never done that before, right? But I had to do something, because we didn't have any money, right? Most of the money was taken out of the road department and was taken out of social services. Those are two things that you absolutely need, right? And that's where the money was siphoned off to do that. So we cut services. We basically slowed down all our public works. And we thought we could dry period loan money from internal lenders. Internal lenders are your departments, right? So maybe I can take here and here, but those are restricted. Some of those were restricted too. So we went with getting the loan. Long story. We got everybody. We did all our presentations, and then I left the county, thinking we were good. When I left, the county decided we're not going to do the loan. We're going to pay ourselves back. So they basically instrumented $800,000 a year to pay themselves back. The state did not like that, but since there wasn't any embezzlement done, they didn't do anything to them, and the county did that. That was difficult, and the services were cut, and it was a major learning experience for me of what not to do in an agency.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rudemetkin, how would you handle it if an individual council member asked you to perform a task that was not approved by the entire council?
Yeah, I would very politely and professionally tell that council member, hey, we have rules, we have a charter, we have code, we have policy that basically states we can't just do things because you want this done. Now, I understand, right? You have a constituent, or you have a group of people, and hey, we need to get this done for my constituents. I get that. I understand that. However, this is a council of 5, not of 1. So what I usually tell, and that happens all the time to me, I usually tell my council member, hey, why don't we bring it up in council and see if the council has a consensus that they would want to basically go forward with it, right? So I had a council member that said, look, we need to put a street light over here. A traffic light over here. Well, number one, does it warrant having a traffic light? Number 2, is it in our city? And number 3, do we really need it in the first place? So, okay, so I put it on the agenda, and under my report, and I just say, hey, council member so-and-so wants to see if we want to put a traffic light at this place. Is there a consensus with everybody for us to do that? I'm good with it. If you want us to do that, we're going to move forward with getting the information. We'll bring it back and see if it's even feasible. Sometimes I get yes, and sometimes it's crickets. And when it's crickets, that's my sign to move on and say, okay, we're not going to address this. However, it may not be over, right? It may be just timing. So I tell the council member who wanted to bring it up, keep it in your pocket. Let me do a little research, okay, when I have time, and maybe we can bring it up at another time, or we can get other people, or if you have a group of people that want to come before the council and stand in front of the microphone and say, hey, we really would like this. I said, then we can do that. And sometimes that'll work to get it on the agenda for us to do it. So that's what I usually say. But again, we're supposed to be in this all together, and I try really not to say no. Really, really hard to say no. I mean, you're my bosses, right? So I want to make sure that you guys are taken care of as well. But it needs to go to all of you when we're making a decision for the city, for the community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is my last question,
Okay.
and you touched on it. When preparing a budget, how do you prioritize which services and programs will be funded?
Right. So I look at history and see what's been funded in the past, but I also look at what's coming, and you don't know that until for me, coming in, right, I don't know that. I know what I see, but what's particularly important for this year? So do we need to add a person over here? Do we need to add a project over here? Do we need to add more paving? Do we need to build this? Do we need to redevelop this? Do we need to repurpose it? You know, that kind of thing. So I look at all those, but again, priorities start with you guys and what your vision and priorities are for the year. Doesn't have to be for 5 years, right? It could be just, what are we looking at for this coming budget season, right? And then I go down that list, like I said. I make sure that public safety is funded, unless the council says specifically, no, we're not going there, right? Because I'm a big believer in that. And then go with the department heads and the residents and see what we can do and see how much money is here, see what our capital improvement looks like, our plan looks like. Obviously, debt service is a big deal. Having a reserve is a big deal in case there's a catastrophic, weather event or catastrophic something. So I try to look at everything when it comes to budget. But the past pretty much is a roadmap. It shows you what we're doing as well. So like for this coming year, for us, I have to look at a salary and compensation study and the cost associated with that. We haven't done one for 7 years. So again, it's a graph. So you have salaries, then you have increases, right? Then you have market, then you have the other agencies. So now, if you're not looking at it, now I got a gap like this. So now instead of the cost being this much, cost is this much to catch up, right? Because the market says, you need to be here, and you're here, right? So that's a priority that we need to ask council about moving forward. So we just completed our study, and on the 17th, we're gonna go talk money. And so that's the process we will go going into this next fiscal year of what we need to do, how we need to fund it, or maybe not, right? Depending on the cost and what we're doing. So you have these individual things every single year that you're doing, aside from the basics that you have to have debt service, you have to have this, you gotta have that. So all that is standard, but then you can look at what you need for that particular year, depending on the situation and depending on what we're doing. You're welcome.
So this is my last question. So if we contacted your last council or mayor, what would they say is your greatest strength as a city manager and your biggest area for growth?
My mayor, I have a new mayor. He's been there since I think April is when he came in. He would probably say he's a good manager. He collaborates. He's got a lot of experience. He tells us his experience, and maybe we need to listen to it more, I think is what he would say. I always try to have a good relationship with my council. My council likes information, so I give them information, right? So, and we make decisions based on that information, and if they don't, we come back. We take it off and we come back. But I think that's what my mayor would say. He's a really, really good city manager. And yeah, I think that's what he'd say.
And the biggest area for growth?
My biggest area for growth? Probably delegation. I've been doing this a long time, right? So, but every place I go to, I learn. I'm not the kind of person, I got this, I'm good, right? No, I'm not like that. If there's something I can learn, I learn. Somebody tells me, Rick, we do it this way and this is the reason why, and it's good, I'm not gonna change that. I'm gonna keep going. So for me, delegating is a big issue. Where I'm at now, I don't delegate because we don't have anybody, right? So like I said, I'm the grants manager, I'm the floodplain administrator, I'm the purchasing agent, I'm the city manager. So I think letting people do the job, letting go of that for me is sometimes difficult, but it depends on the situation. I mean, we have 180 employees. It's a lot easier to let the delegation out and let the employees shine, let them do what they're supposed to do, and then I can oversee from the top, right? So I think for me, that would probably be the biggest area of growth. But when you use the word growth and not weakness, because I don't think weakness is something that I have when we talk about growth. Learning the agency and learning this community, that's growth too. And what that entails will allow me to basically let everybody do their job, and we can keep on rolling, because you don't want to break legacy, you know. So you had a good city manager, and you don't see that in many places. So continuing that legacy is important for me, and how things have been done is important. Yeah, we're going to make some changes, and we'll look at some different things, but I think the biggest thing for me is letting some things go, because I know I can do it, but I want to make sure that other people can do it as well, and that brings them up to success.
Thank you, sir.
All right, final question for me, Mayor, but Mr. Rudimenkin, how do you balance providing department leaders with the autonomy to complete tasks in their own way while maintaining necessary oversight?
So the biggest thing, set expectations, right? So everybody knows what their expectations are, or maybe we can modify the expectation. Once you do that and you set the parameters, set expectation, look, you're in charge of this, go with it. And you let people do their job, right? Micromanaging is such a cliche word, but if I keep telling somebody, you really should use this. You really should try this. Well, Rick, that doesn't work here because of blah, blah, blah. No, I think you should really, it's just wasting money, wasting efficiency. You're right. You go right ahead and do it, right? Because they're the experts on this. When you talk about subject matter experts, it's usually your staff, right? Because they've been doing it for so long. So for me to come in and say, no, it's not really the right thing to do, right? So I try, like I said, try to set those expectations. Back away. If there's an issue, now I'm rolling back up to the microphone and I take care of the issue, right? And but you take care of the issue with love and compassion. You don't take care of the issue with anger and being a dictator. You take care of the issue, and then everybody feels empowered to keep moving, even if it's in a different direction, right? It's still success.
Thank you again.
All right, sir. I believe that's all the questions we have. So any closing statements or comments?
Just really quick, thank you guys. Thank everybody here. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a really neat experience. I enjoy talking with everybody and sharing my experience with everybody. I'm very excited to be a finalist for this position. I know I can do this with you guys. Like I said, with Scott, I think I'm filling some big shoes. But I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to be here long term. I've already talked to my wife about it. I mean, this is a move for us, for my daughter as well. And so, if you guys want to do a 5-year contract, I'm good. Anyways, I really enjoyed it, and you guys are extremely nice, professional, and that's a big bonus for me. And the city itself is moving forward. I love that. That's one of the big draws for me here. So again, I look forward to hopefully seeing you again. And if not, God bless everybody, and you guys just keep on rolling. So anyways, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for your interest in East Ridge and for coming and spending time with us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Have a good evening. See you guys.
You too. Thank you. All right. The last item on the agenda is communications from citizens. So this is an opportunity for anyone to come forward if they would like to address the council with any statements, comments.
No one signed in.
No one signed in? Okay, but if there's anyone in the audience, now's your opportunity to come forward. All right, I don't see anyone, so I will, next item is adjournment, but I'll ask the council, is there any comments or anything at this point in time? I know that we've got this set for the next council meeting to discuss our selection and then start working on compensation package to be offered, but is there any comments at this time?
I'd like to thank the people that put this together. This was 4 good candidates. Really appreciate the whole answers that a lot of them gave, and look forward to making the decision.
Yeah, I wanted to echo Mr. Ezell's comment. Mr. Miller and Hannah Rogers and Michelle Senegalio did a fantastic job this time. I feel like we have 4 absolutely stellar candidates to choose from. It's probably going to be one of the hardest decisions we've ever going to have to make as a council. But thank you again for the work you put in on this one. It really showed that they did just a fantastic job.
I agree.
Yeah, likewise. That's exactly what I was going to say. And the preparation, the effort that we had these last 2 days, we lengthened it a little bit. It gave us more opportunity to spend more time, ask more questions, and everything was excellent, prepared, and done a lot of research. And I do believe we have some excellent candidates, and we're going to come out with an excellent choice for our next city manager. So, with that being said, thanks for everyone that's been here. Yes, sir.
How are we gonna do this next Thursday? We gonna bring in our top 3 or 4 candidates, or we just gonna discuss them all, or
We'll just discuss them all, and we will then entertain,
motion to that?
a motion to move forward, and we'll see majority will rule.
Do you actually ask for a backup in case the guy that you choose don't accept our offer, or we just come back and talk about it again?
I would, yes, sir.
I would probably pick one, and if he doesn't, then.
That's my reckon. I would say select one, and then we should be able to find out pretty soon, I would think, after we'd extend the contract and the offer, and then we can then address it in the next council meeting, or if worst case, we need to have another special call meeting for that deliberation. Sound fair? All right.